Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has a dragon bloodline council bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Czar Joseph and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, The Return of the True Heir and Reunion. Story starts. October 10th Kyubi Festival. It was dark in the village of Konoha. The streets were lighting up and the villagers were celebrating the day the Kyubi was defeated. A group of ninja wearing black hooded cloaks with a white dragon on the back of them were walking through the busy streets. 3, however, had their hoods down, revealing their faces. One was a man who was 6 feet 0 inches. He had long brown hair that was tied into a ponytail, deep green eyes, and a tan-like complexion. He also had a scar on his left cheek. He was Joe Hayabusa, the Shiroi Ryu, White Dragon, of the Hayabusa village and leader of the 2nd Dragon Clan branch. He's ranked as an S-class nin with a Fleon Sight order, and was the only ninja capable of going toe-to-toe with the Yellow Flash and lived to tell about it. The man was calm, wise, loyal, trustworthy, and powerful. Walking beside him was his wife, Shizure Hayabusa, the Kurwa Tenchi, Black Angel, of the Hayabusa village. She was 5 feet 8 inches and without a doubt the most beautiful woman ever to be seen. She had long flowing black hair that stopped to the middle of her back, deep blue eyes, the face of an angel, and flawless ivory-colored skin that seemed to glow in the moonlight, giving her the appearance of a goddess. Holding her hand was her 6-year-old son Ryo Hayabusa. He appeared to be a younger version of his father, only his hair was in a shorter ponytail, and had a tan complexion. He was wearing a black ninja GI outfit with a dragon at the location of where his heart is. They were heading to the Hokage Tower to discuss the new treaty. As they passed an alley, a scream was heard. "Tusan Ka-san, what was that?" young Ryu asked. Joe looked into the dark alley only to see a mob made up of civilians and shinobi that were Chunin and Jounin beating on a blonde-haired boy who wore a dirty white t-shirt and blue shorts with bats, clubs, beer bottles, and to his shock kunai while screaming "Kill the demon and avenge the yondaime." Shizure's eyes widened in horror when she saw this. What kind of monsters do this to a child? She thought and saw a Chunin raise a katana in the air while grinning like a madman. "Die Kyubi brat!" he yelled as he started to bring the blade down while everyone cheered. "Joe-kun, stop him!" she cried. Joe's eyes become slitted and he vanishes and appears between the Chunin and the blonde boy who was trying to protect himself with his bleeding arms. Joe then punches the shocked Chunin hard in the stomach, breaking a few of his ribs, and sends him flying out of the alley and into an ice cream cart. Shizure orders one of the hooded nin to take Ryu away from this and he nods, taking the young dragon with him while the others deal with the mob. Said mob was backing away while the other hooded dragon nin appeared behind Joe and around the blonde boy with their backs turned at the boy who was whimpering and trembling in fear while having their swords drawn. Shizure then appeared in front of the blonde and kneels down. The blonde boy had tears falling from his blue eyes and his lip was quivering. "Don't hurt me. Please, I was only hungry and wanted some food," he said. Shizure's eyes soften and she smiles at him. "It's okay, child, I'm not here to hurt you," she says, and her hands glow white, and she places them on his small arms. He flinches a little from the contact but relaxes while she treats his injuries. Joe watched this from the corner of his eye and smiles. He turns his eyes back to the villagers and releases a huge amount of murderous intent on them. "What do you fools think you're doing?" he roared while they sweated heavily from the murderous intent this man was releasing. That's when one idiot civilian spoke up. "We were trying to avenge our leader by killing the demon brat," he answered. Joe's eye narrowed and looked back at the boy. Then he looked at the villagers who were hoping he would understand reason and kill the boy. "Wow, what a bunch of fools. I see no demon. All I see are a bunch of short-minded fools. Now leave before I kill you all," he growled in a deep dark voice while they backed away. "Be but the demon," a Jounin said, only to have 3 shuriken enter his skull and hit the ground dead. Joe was the one who threw them and his eyes glowed. "I won't tell you again. Leave while you have your limbs intact," he said in a dark tone, making them run away. Joe's eyes return to normal once they're gone, and he doesn't sense any nin around. The dragon nin that were protecting Shizure and the blonde boy relaxed and sheathed their swords. Shizure just finished healing his legs and asked him to take off his shirt. He was reluctant at first, but he did, and a gasp escaped her mouth. "Oh my Kami," she whispers. The boy was so skinny he could see his bones and ribs outlined. He also had cuts, bruises, burns all over. Joe and the other dragon nin saw this and couldn't help but feel sorry for the poor boy. After treating those injuries, she turns him around to heal his back and notices a red mark that was hidden under his blonde hair. She blinks in confusion and pushes it up, and her eyes widened. "I don't believe it. Kushina-sama's son has been alive this whole time?" But the Sandaime said that he died when Minato-kun sealed the Kyubi no Kitsune into him. He lied. That old monkey lied to her. When Kushina finds out, this village will be done for. She'll see to it personally. Jokun, could you come here please? She asks her husband. Joe nods and walks over to where she and the boy are. He kneels down and looks at the back of his head, and his eyes widen in shock. Sure, Shizure-chan, that's. He started to say, and she nodded while her eyes became cold. That fool lied to her. How could he do this? After all Minato and our clan has done for this village? He told her he died during the sealing. Does he have any idea what he's done? When she finds out that he's alive, Konoha will be finished. She whispers to him. Joe grunted in agreement. He may be strong, but Kushina was not someone you'd want to have as an enemy or piss off. He then pulls out a scroll and hands it to her. Get him out of those rags and have him put the clothes that are in this scroll on. He then stands up and looks at the hooded ninja. Kenji. Aoshi. Shira. He said while three of them appeared before him on one knee. They removed their hoods, revealing two males and a female. Kenji had reddish-orange hair that was in a ponytail and violet eyes. Aoshi had shoulder-length bluish-black hair and gray-colored eyes. Shira had violet-colored hair and red eyes. Sir, they said in unison. You three are coming with me to the Hokage Tower. The rest of you stay with my wife, son, and the boy. If anyone tries to harm the blonde boy, kill them. He commanded while the ones in the hooded cloaks nodded. Let's go, he said to Kenji, Aoshi, and Shira, who nodded, and they vanished from the alley. Shizure bites her thumb, drawing blood from it, and smears it on the scroll. The seal glows a little, and in a puff of smoke, a dark blue GI that was similar to Ryu's appeared. She then turns to the blonde child, who blinked at her confusingly. Here, young one, put this on. You don't want to get sick now, do you? She asks in a soothing tone. The blonde nods and takes off the shorts and puts on the GI. She smiles at him and asks, What is your name, young one? Naruto Uzumaki, miss, he says, and she answers. Shizure Hayabusa. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto-kun, she says. Naruto looks down at the ground, which causes her to give him a concerned look. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? She asked while Naruto shifted his feet nervously. Why are you being so nice to me? Almost everyone in this village hates me, beats me, or they say I'm a monster who kills innocent people, he said quietly. She frowns but places her hands on his shoulders. You're not a monster, Naruto-kun. These people are just a bunch of fools who can't tell the difference between one and the other. Would you like to meet my son, Ryu? She asks, and he nods. Come on then. Let's get out of this dirty alley, she says, and gets up. She then holds out her hand to him, and he takes it, making her smile as she led him out of the place and to the village. The hooded ninja follow her from behind. They noticed the villagers were glaring at Naruto and calling him a demon brat, and that the Hokage should have killed the creature when he was born. The hooded nin twitched their fingers as they heard this. Naruto held Shizure's hand a little tighter. She notices this and sees the looks the villagers were giving him and releases her own murderous intent at them, making the fools stop and tremble at her icy gaze. They then find themselves in the park where Ryu was practicing some hand seals the hooded dragon nin was showing him. He saw his mother and the other nin approaching with a blonde nin and runs up to her. Ka-san, I finally got 3 seals down. Where's Two-san and who is he? He asked, looking at Naruto with curiosity in his eyes while said blonde was looking at him nervously. Shizure looks down at her son and smiles. Ryu-kun, this is Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun, this is Ryu-kun, my Sochi, she answers. Ryu holds his hand out for a handshake and smiles. Nice to meet you, Naruto. I'm Ryu Hayabusa, he replies. Naruto decides to do the same and shakes Ryu's hand. It's nice to meet you, Ryu, he said with a small smile on his face. Shizure couldn't help but smile. They've only met for a few seconds and they're already bonding, she thought while she watched Ryu lead Naruto to a sakura tree and talk. At the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen Sarutobi was sitting in his chair doing some paperwork while wondering if Naruto was doing okay. He hated the fact that he had to lie to Kushina about her son, but Naruto was a Jinchuriki of Konoha and the last Namikaze, and he had to stay no matter what. It's what Minato would want, can you say, retard? He continued to do his paperwork until the door was knocked off its hinges, shocking the professor, and from the other side came Joe Hayabusa along with Kenji, Aoshi, and Shira, and the man was not happy. Joe Hayabusa, what can I do for you? Hiruzen asked while the man's frown grew. You can start by explaining, he said in a low tone. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow at the dragon nin. I'm not sure I understand your meaning, Joe-san. Explain what? He asked, only to feel murderous intent coming from the man. You can explain why the true heir of the Hayabusa is in the village being treated like a dog, and why you lied to Kushina-sama about her son being dead? He yelled at the last second while his eyes became slitted and glowed. Hiruzen's eyes widened in shock and a bead of sweat fell from the side of his head. Oh no, how did he find out? I must do something or the village will lose the last Namikaze, he thought. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, he started to say but was cut off when Joe smashed the desk, leaving an imprint of his fist in it. Don't lie to me, old monkey. That boy is Kushina and Minato's son, because he had the mark of a red dragon on him, and he looks just like Minato, if you take away the whisker marks. Do you have any idea what Kushina will do when I tell her the truth about her son? He says, making the old man gulp a little. Do you have any idea what the Ryunin, or Dragon Nin, will do when they find out that their future leader was hidden from them by the very village they've been allies with since the founding and that he's been beaten near death? They will raze this place to the ground and kill every single person in this village if Kushina-sama doesn't. She'll do it herself. He yelled. Please, Joe-san, you have to understand, he's the last Namikaze in the village and his father wanted him to be recognized as a hero to the village. I can't just let you take the boy. He's a citizen of Konoha and falls under the village's jurisdiction. He said, hoping this would work, but only made the man more furious. I see. Perhaps I should send a letter to the Fire Daimyo and Kushina-sama about this and let them solve the problem when they get here. I'm sure you'd love to explain to the ruler of Fire Country and to one of the most dangerous kunoichi in the world why Konoha is going to war with an ally due to the fact that you not only interfered in foreign ninja clan affairs, but lied to said clan leader and Kage about her child's so-called demise and kept him here to be beaten like a dog. He replied in a deep dark tone that made Sarutobi pale and inwardly sweat. We still haven't fully recovered from the Kyuubi attack and the Ryu ninja are well known and feared throughout the elemental nations. They are even hired bodyguards for the daimyo. If they remove their nin from his ranks because of our actions then we'll be finished, but Naruto is the last Namikaze of the village, and we can't just give him up. What do I do? He ranted in his mind as he tried to think of an alternative. Seeing no other choice, he sighs in defeat. Very well, Joe-san. I will hand Naruto over to you, he starts to say until Joe interrupts him. And his father's inheritance, and jutsus as well as the forbidden scroll that Minato created. He said, getting a shocked look from Sarutobi. I can't do that, Joe-san, because I am well aware of IWA, but you forget that Minato left everything he owned to Kushina-sama and any children they have, and if you don't then consider our alliance with Fire Country finished. He replied, but was getting to the point where he'll kill Hiruzen, who let out another sigh. Fine. Just let me get everything. He then gets up and heads to the Hokage's vault. He returns with 3 large scrolls. One contained the Namikaze clan's currency. The other one contained all the jutsu they ever created and their fighting style. And the last one was the forbidden scroll of sealing. This is everything, Joe-san. Is there anything else? He asked. No, you've done enough already. You and this village have caused nothing but trouble, and pray that I can convince Kushina-sama not to declare war on Konoha due to the stupidity of the leader and his followers, he said with anger etching off his voice. Sarutobi flinched from those words and looked down in shame while Joe and his ninjas left the tower. Hiruzen then looked at the picture frame that held Minato's picture in it. It was like he was glaring at the old man for failing to protect his son. Minato. I'm sorry I couldn't protect Naruto, he thought while looking at the destroyed door, and had the secretary send a maintenance worker to fix it. Konoha Park. Shizure had a smile on her face when she saw Ryu showing Naruto how to perform hand seals, which he mimicked. Ryu also told him about the Hayabusa village and that it was a village on the other side of the world. She then saw her husband and his 3 nin walking towards them with 3 large scrolls. She walks over to him and looks up at her koi lover. So how did it go, Joe-kun? She asked while he smiled at her. It went well, Shizure-chan. Naruto will be coming back with us. He won't have to stay in this godforsaken place ever again. I just hope I can convince Kushina-sama not to destroy Konoha after this. I wouldn't wish her wrath on even my worst enemy. He replied while his brow twitched at the thought of an angry Kushina. Whenever he saw her angry or pissed, he ends up seeing the form of the Shinigami hovering over her head and pointing at her victim. Shizure giggled when she saw him shake his head and looked over her shoulder to see Ryu and Naruto doing hand seals and smiles. I see Naruto and Ryu have developed a bond already, he said while his wife looks at the two and nods. Yes, it appears so. Naruto-kun, Ryu-chan, come over here please. She spoke out, and the 2 6-year-olds ran up to her. Naruto-kun, this is my husband Joe Hayabusa. He's the leader of the Hayabusa clan, she said. Naruto looked at the man and bowed. Thank you for saving me, Joe-san, he said while the leader smiles and nods. You are welcome, Naruto, he said, and paused for a few minutes and asked, Naruto, how would you like to come back with us to the Hayabusa village? He asked the young boy, who looked up at the man with a surprised look. You won't have to worry about being treated badly or glared at. Unlike this village, ours doesn't judge a book by its cover. You'll also be able to make friends there as well as hang out with Ryu here as long as you want. So what do you say, Naruto Uzumaki? Would you like to join our village and maybe be a ninja for the village? He asked. Naruto just looks at him in shock. He can finally be happy and be in a place where he won't get beaten or glared at. He did had few after all. He then nods while wiping away his eyes. Joe smiles at him. Okay. We have to leave now. Naruto, is there anything you need to get before we go? Joe asks while Naruto just shakes his head. Alright then, let's go everyone. He orders and they nod. Shizuru took Naruto and Ryu's hands in hers and they leave the village. During the travel back home on the boat, Joe talked to Naruto and told him everything. About his inheritance, how his father Minato Namikaze sacrificed his life to seal the fox into him, how the old man lied to his mother saying that he died during the sealing, and that he was the true heir of the Hayabusa clan, and he had a twin sister who looked like her mother. Naruto was an emotional wreck when he was told this and hated Sarutobi for lying to him whenever he asked about his family, and letting those people in Konoha treat him like trash. Shizuru managed to calm the poor boy down and told him that he won't have to go through that anymore. But when he realized that he had a mother and sister, he was happy yet worried that she'd reject him. Shizuru saw this and said, Naruto-kun, I highly doubt Kushina would abandon you even if you're the container for the Kyuubi. Naruto looked at and nodded but still couldn't help but hope she was right. Then Joe spoke up. What surprises me is why she would attack the village in the first place. Kyuubi is normally neutral when it comes to human affairs, and she wouldn't attack a village unless said ninja from the village provoked her into attacking, or that she was being controlled, or she was trying to get rid of an evil threat. Joe replied, getting a shocked look from Naruto. But I thought the Kyuubi was an evil demon, Naruto said, but Joe shook his head. I'm afraid that's not true, Naruto. Kyuubi is a spirit of nature, a guardian of the mortal realm, and only appears when a great evil threatens the earth. She's also well known to the Ryu, dragon, ninja, and was around to assist our ancestors in defeating the dark dragon, but that's for another time. He answers and sees a mass of land from the boat. It appears we'll be porting soon, he said as the boat heads for a dock. After the ship stopped at the docks, Joe had the 3 scrolls strapped to his back and moved forward into the forest with the dragon Nin flanking him, Shizuru, Naruto, and Ryu. So, Ryu, what's the Hayabusa village like? The blonde asks while Ryu thought about it and answered. Well, for one thing, it's big. We don't have a large gate that surrounds it like the other hidden villages do, because we're not a hidden village. We also have ninja that are ranked like the ones in the elements. We also use ninjutsu, taijutsu, fuinjutsu, kenjutsu, and genjutsu, but we mostly excel in stealth, espionage, assassination, and interrogation, he said. Wow. So does the village have a ninja academy? Naruto asked, and that's when Joe answers. No, we don't, Naruto. We prefer to train our ninjas separately, but we do set them up in squads and a leader by their skills and not through meaningless titles like Rookie of the Year or Kunoichi of the Year or Dead Last, because that is insulting and ruins the way a squad cooperates. We also have a shinobi and civilian council that is separate and not joined. Also the Ryukage, Dragon Shadow, who your mother is, has the final say in anything, he answered while Naruto nods. When they entered the village, Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. The village was huge. The buildings were larger than the ones in Konoha and the streets were filled with civilians and ninja. As they walked through the village, Naruto noticed that when the civilians and shinobi looked at them, they either smiled or bowed. There was not even one glare from them. He also saw shinobi parents training their children in the ninja arts. They continued to walk until they came to a large Japanese castle that was surrounded by compounds. The place was bigger than the Hokage Tower. On top of the castle was the statue of a red dragon with golden eyes, ruby red scales, a golden underbelly, spines, claws, and horns, and it had its head raised and its maw open, revealing a row of ivory white teeth. It appeared to be roaring at the sky. Naruto said only one thing. Wow, he said, looking at the dragon while Joe chuckled. Yes, even now I can't help but be amazed by the appearance of the statue that represents our village, he said as they continued to walk into the compound district. Once they reached the Uzumaki compound, Joe dismissed the dragon Nin while Shizuru took Ryu with her to the Hayabusa compound to get some rest. Joe and Naruto approached the door of the Uzumaki compound, but Naruto was a little nervous and scared. He was going to meet his mother and sister for the first time. Joe looked at Naruto, who was fidgeting, and placed a hand on the boy's shoulders to calm him down. Relax, Naruto. Your mother is a kind person and is respected and loved by everyone in the village, he said softly. Naruto lets out a sigh as Joe opens the slide door and they walk in. The inside was decorated with paintings of dragons and weapons. There were also statues of dragons lined up through the hallways. As they walked through the hallways, they came to a stop at a door that had a red swirl on one side and a dragon on the other. Naruto, get behind me. I want to surprise your mother, he whispered to him. He nods and gets behind him as he knocks on the door carefully. Enter. A voice said that Naruto thought sounded like an angel. Joe then opens the door and enters the room with Naruto behind him. It appeared to be a meditation room since it was plain but did have plant life and a small water fountain in it. In the middle of the room was a woman who seemed to be 5 feet 8 inches. She had long flowing red hair, ivory-colored skin, and the figure of a goddess. She was wearing a crimson-colored ninja training gi with a coiling golden dragon on the back. She was sitting in a lotus position with her back turned to Joe. "Kushina-sama," Joe said with a bow, making the woman sigh. "Joe, how many times do I have to tell you to only call me that during meetings?" she asks without looking at him, while he chuckles. "Old habits die hard, Kushina," he says with a smile, but then gets serious. "Kushina, I have some very important news to tell you, and it's regarding your son," he said, causing Kushina's eyes to open up instantly. She then gets up and looks at Joe with a serious look. "Joe, we both know that my Sochi died along with Minato-koi, so why would you bring this subject up knowing how I feel about it?" she asks with eyes full of sorrow. "Because he didn't die with his father, Kushina. Sarutobi lied to you, and he's been alive living in that village for the last 6 years," he answered, saying village with venom in his voice. Kushina's eyes were wide and her mouth was open, but no words came out of it. "I took him out of the village and also got the clan scrolls that belong to Minato, including the one that contains the Hiraishin and the Forbidden Scroll that he created," he says, pulling the 3 scrolls from his back and placed them on the floor. "Your son is right behind me too. Come on out, Naruto," he said, and a blonde 6-year-old who looked like a miniature version of Minato walked out in front of Joe and looked up at his mother. Kushina looked down at Naruto while her eyes became moist and tears formed in her eyes. "And Naruto-chan?" she replied while Naruto smiled at her and walked up to Kushina, grabbing her hand. "Ka-san," was all he could say because she scooped him up in her arms and hugged him to her body while sobbing uncontrollably. "And my baby's still alive. I'm so sorry, Naruto-chan. I'm so sorry for not looking for you. Please forgive me," she said as she held even closer. Naruto wrapped his arms around his mother's neck and laid his head on her chest while he cried silently. Kushina was crying tears of joy, muttering "my baby" over and over. Joe smiled at the scene and left Kushina and her son alone so that they could catch up. After that little scene, Kushina wipes her tears away with her arm and takes a good look at her son. "You look just like your father, Naruto-chan," she said while Naruto blushed and then looked at her. "Ka-san, Joe-san said that the Kyuubi was sealed into me by Two-san but told me that he wasn't an evil demon. Why did he attack Konoha then?" Naruto asked. He asked while Kushina frowned and thought about it. "Honestly, Sochi, I don't know. Kyuubi is a spirit of nature and wouldn't attack the village unless he had a reason to. So tell me, how was your life in Konoha for the last 6 years?" she asked, but noticed the frown on his face, and he started to tell her everything. How the adults would beat him on his birthday and made their children stay away from him, how he had to eat out of garbage cans and only eat at a ramen stand, and that he was overcharged for clothes and food, and that he was kicked out of the orphanage when he was 4. To say Kushina was pissed would be an understatement. She was beyond livid or pissed. Her eyes went from blue to a golden yellowish-orange color with a tint of red on them, and her pupils became slitted. She growled, baring her teeth, and the top ones extended into fangs. "Those bastards! I'll kill them. I'll raze that damn village to the ground and rip Sarutobi apart with my bare hands," the Ryukage said in a dark tone that'll make Orochimaru run away crying like a little girl. Naruto noticed this and placed a hand on her cheek to try and calm her down. "Don't let them get to you, Ka-san. They're not worth it. They didn't honor Two-san's dying wish," Naruto said, which caused Kushina to calm down, and her eyes and teeth returned to normal and looked down at her son, who smiled at her. She does the same but sighs. "You're right, Naruto-chan, they're not. I'm sorry if I scared you," she said while she sat down Indian style with her son on her lap. "Scared me? That was cool what you did. Will I be able to do that?" he asked with a huge smile on his face. Kushina couldn't help but laugh at her son. "Yeah, you will once you activated our family's Kekkei Genkai bloodline limit," she said, getting a confused look from her son. "Kekka what?" he asked while she had to hold in a laugh by biting her lower lip as Naruto blinked a few times and tilted his head to the left. "Kawaii. He looks so cute when he's confused," she squealed in her mind as a chibi form of her jumped up and down squealing. Kushina was about to say something, but the door opened and a 6-year-old girl with red hair and an ivory complexion like her mother walked in. She also had blue eyes and wore a red gi like her mother's. She saw her mother holding a blonde boy in her arms and blinked in confusion. "Ka-san, who is that boy you're holding?" the red-headed girl asked. Kushina and Naruto looked at her, and Naruto's eyes widened. That was his twin sister, and she looked just like Kushina. Kushina smiled and motioned her to come over, and she did while staring at the blonde boy. "Suki-chan, this is Naruto, your twin brother. He's been alive this whole time and was brought back by Joe," she replied. Suki's eyes went wide when she saw her brother, who was rubbing the back of his head nervously. She went from shock to having a huge grin on her face. "Naruto and I." She squealed and tackled her brother and mother to the ground. Kushina managed to get back up only to see Suki hugging or squeezing her older twin, who went from his tan color to blue. "And Nei-chan." I can't breathe. He struggled to say while Kushina giggled and then laughed at her children. Chapter ended. Chapter 2, Dragons, Foxes, and Training. Story starts. The sun's rays shined down on Naruto's face, which caused him to squint a few times. He turned in his bed and blinked a few times before opening his eyes. He woke up to see that he was in a large room that had different kinds of things in it. There were some pictures of his mother and father when they got married and some where they were teenagers. There were some of his mother and her side of the family in Whirlpool before it was destroyed. Even Konoha dishonored the Uzumaki clan. On the walls were paintings of different colored dragons, each shooting different colored fire or another element. There were also statues of golden dragons lining up the walls. He also had toys and plastic weapons like shuriken, kunai, and ninjatos that were in a black wooden box, and next to his bed was a small dresser drawer that had a stuffed red dragon on it. Naruto started to rubbing the sleep out of his eyes and went to his closet. It was in a sense huge, having not only training GI and sandals but other things like different colored shirts, shorts, pants, and shoes he's never seen before. Wow. I can't believe that this is all my stuff, he said, admitted, until he was tackled by a red blur. They both tumbled on the ground for a while until they finally came to a stop with Suki sitting on top of Naruto, grinning. She then got up and started to hug the life out of her twin brother. Morning, Naruto and I, she said while Naruto was struggling to breathe. See, can't breath, Suki-chan, he said, trying to get out of her vice grip. Suki lets go while Naruto gains his breath back. Hee, sorry Nisan. I'm just happy to have my big brother with me, she said, and hugs Naruto normally, who smiles and returns the hug. Is Ka-san still asleep? Naruto asked Suki, who she nodded. Come on, let's go wake her up, she says, grabbing Naruto's arm, and leads him out of the room and to Kushina's. Kushina was in her room sleeping when Naruto and Suki sneak in quietly. Suki told Naruto to go to the other side while she went to the other. She sees her mother, who was snoring quietly while drool was hanging out of her mouth. And lol. No wondered where did Naruto didn't sleep properly because of the snoring. Well, maybe? Suki put her hand over her mouth to hold in the giggle. She then climbs the bed, as does Naruto. They look at each other and grin. They both breathe air into their lungs and pause for a while and then yelled out, K-S-N! Kushina instantly bolts up with her eyes open wide and screams. As she blinks for a while and looks down to see her son and daughter grinning at her. She then smiles at them and pulls them onto her lap. How are my Kodomo children are doing this morning? She asked. Fine. They replied at the same time while she kisses them both on the forehead. She then looks at the clock and sighs. It was 10:30 a.m. So she gets up with her children in her arms. Come on, you two. Once we eat breakfast, I'm gonna take you two over to Shizu's because I have a busy schedule today, she says while walking out the room with them. Ka-san, are you the Kage of this village? Naruto asks her, and she nods. Yes, I am. I'm the Godame Ryukage, 5th Dragon Shadow, she answered, and Naruto's mouth was opened. So you and Tusan were Kages? That is so cool, he exclaimed with a grin on his face while Suki grins too. Yes, it is cool, but it's also a very tough job. I'm not only in charge of the ninja of our village, but I'm also in charge of how things operate in our village. Kushina replied with explained, but then cries inwardly. Not to mention all that paperwork. How did Minato-kun get it done so fast? Then her chibi form ranted, crying anime tears while doing mountain loads of paperwork. Meanwhile, Kushina's eyebrow twitched, but it was noticed by Suki, who giggled. Naruto saw this and asked, What's so funny, Suki-chan? He asked Hisamuto with wonder, while his sister points to Kushina. Ka-san's eyebrow was twitching, meaning she's going nuts about paperwork, but doesn't show it. Suki explained while Naruto blinks. Is it that bad? Naruto asked while Suki's grin grew about their mother's or Kage's worst nightmare and arch-nemesis of all Kages. She almost killed Joaji, uncle, when he accidentally slammed the door, causing all the paperwork that she finished to scatter all over her office, and it took 15 ANBU to restrain her. She answered while Kushina blushed in embarrassment. If only I can find a jutsu that finishes the paperwork. Kushina mumbles while Naruto rubs her back. Don't worry, Ka-san. I'll help you to find a way to get rid of that evil paperwork, Naruto says while he puffs his chest out, getting a light laugh from his mom. If you do that for me, Sochi, then I'll be forever in your debt, she said, kissing the top of his head. Ka-san, Naruto whined while she and Suki laughed at him. So once they had breakfast, they got changed and Kushina, Naruto, and Suki were heading for the Hayabusa compound. Naruto wore a dark blue long-sleeved kimono and hakama pants that had white dragons and white flames licking the bottom of the hamaka pants and the sleeves. He also wore dark blue socks and black sandals. Suki was wearing a red kimono with sakura petals and blue birds on them. She also wore white socks and red sandals. Kushina was wearing her kage robes, which were white and black, and wore a kage hat that was also black and white and had the kanji, dragon, on the front under them. She wore a red and black ninja outfit with arm guards and a black collared flak jacket with black sandals. She was wearing the kage hat on her head so that the sun wouldn't get in her eyes, and she was holding both her son and daughter's hands while being flanked by 4 ANBU who were wearing dragon masks with markings on them, but the markings were different colors. The captain wore a hooded white cloak that had a black dragon on the back, while the subordinates wore black cloaks with white dragons on them. Under the cloaks they wore dark blue uniforms, and strapped to their backs were katanas. As they walked through the village, Naruto saw the civilians and shinobi either smiling or bowing to Kushina and her children when they walked by. Kushina smiled and waved at the civilians and shinobi, as did Suki and Naruto. Naruto knew they respected him and his family because of their clan and their mother being the Kage, but he wanted to earn their respect just like his mother and father did. When they reached the compound, guarding the gates were 2 ninja wearing masks that covered half of their faces, black jounin shirts and pants, dark blue collared flak jackets, and black headbands with the symbol of a dragon on them. They noticed Kushina, her children, and the dragon ANBU coming towards the compound. When they stopped at the gate, the 2 guards bowed. "Greetings, Ryukichi-sama, what brings you to the Hayabusa compound?" one guard asked while she smiled. "You may raise your heads, Jonins. I'm just here to drop my children off since I'll be really busy today." "Is Shizure and Ryu-chan is here?" she asked while they raised their heads. "Yes, they are here. Jo-sama already left for the meeting you called." "You also said children, Ryukichi-sama? I could have sworn you had only Suki-san?" the second guard asked while making Kushina sigh about it. "To make a long story short, I just found out that my son was still alive for the last 6 years. Everything else will be explained at the meeting," Kushina answered while the guards looked at Naruto for a while and then back at Kushina. "We understand, Ryukichi-sama. Would you like for us to escort your children into the compound?" first guard asked, getting a nod from their leader. "Yes, I must be going now," the Ryukichi said and kneeled down to hug her children. "Stay on your best behavior, you two. I'll see you both later." Naruto and Suki hug her back. "Okay, Ka-san, come on, Naruto and I," Suki said and led Naruto past the gate and towards the compound while one of the guards walked behind them. Kushina got back up and then looked at the ANBU. "Let's go," she said in an authority tone while they nod and the 5 of them shunshed into the Dragon Tower. Meanwhile, the guard escorted them into the compound, which was similar to theirs but was a little smaller. As they walked through the compound, they saw Shizure teaching Ryu some new hand seals and how to chant incantations. The guard did a small cough, getting their attention, and they see Naruto and Suki grinning. Shizure motions the guard to leave, who nods and shins away. Suki runs over to Shizure and hugs her, while she smiles and returns it. "Hi, Shizuro-basin," Suki greet while the woman laughs lightly as they release each other. "Hello, Suki-chan," she greet back and noticed Naruto, who looked nervous, making her smile grow. "Don't be shy, Naruto-kun, come give me a hug," she insisted in a sweet tone. Naruto walks over to her with a small blush on his face, and she gives him a hug. Suki sees Ryu, who had a small blush on his face, ran over to Ryu and hugged him, making the young dragon turn red from the contact. Shizure releases Naruto, who was smiling at her, and she looks over to see Ryu red from Suki's hug. "Ah, how cute, Ryu's already formed a crush on Suki. I can't wait till he's older. The teasing that I'll do to him and her will be priceless," she thought while Naruto saw this and asked. "Ano sa, Shizuro-basin, why is Ryu red? Is he sick or something?" Shizure looks at the confused look on his face and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Just like his father, as well as with Kushina. "Ryu's fine, Naruto. He's just a little embarrassed from the hug Suki-chan gave him," she answered while Naruto looked at Suki, who was leading Ryu out their backyard by the hand while Ryu was redder than a tomato. "So, he's shy?" Naruto asked as they went to join them while Shizure nods. "You could say that. Now let's go join your sister and Ryu," Shizure replies. Dragon Tower Council Chambers. Kushina was now sitting in a chair in the council chamber. On her right was Joe Hayabusa and on her left was the captain commander, Soteicho, of the Dragon ANBU, Arashir Kazama. He was 5 feet 11 inches and wore his mask on the side of his face, revealing his face. His eyes were light gray and he had jet black hair that stopped to his shoulders. There were also the elders who gave Kushina suggestive advice, and the shinobi and civilian council. "Ryukichi-sama, is there a reason why you summoned us here?" one of the elders asked. Kushina looks at him and nods. "Yes, there is, and the reason why I summoned you all here is because the true heir of the Dragon Clan has returned," she answered with announced, getting shocked looks from all of them when one of the civilians spoke up. "Pardon me for saying this, Ryukichi-sama, but I thought your daughter was the true heir," the civilian merchant asked, and Joe spoke up. "That would have been the case, however, when me and my group went to Konoha to get more supplies, we found her firstborn being beaten by civilians and shinobi," he answered. Kushina had to suppress the murderous intent she wanted to release after hearing that while the members of the council's eyes widen. Would you be so kind as to start from the beginning, Jo-san? A shinobi member asked, and he did. After hearing the story, to say they were pissed would be an understatement. That was when one of the shinobi members spoke up. Those bastards. How dare they? Yeah. Who does that fool of a Kage think he is lying to our leader about her son's so-called demise? Lying to a Kage, interfering in a foreign clan's affairs, and denying the boy his true inheritance. Those actions are considered acts of war. After all the things our village has done to help them, they do this? Something must be done, and they must pay for this. Another elder yelled out. This kept on for 10 more minutes until Kushina slammed her fist into the desk. Silence! She roared, and they went quiet. She then breathes out a sigh and starts talking. I understand how you all feel. Believe me when I say that I too am pissed at what Konoha has done to my family, and I assure you Konoha will pay for their actions. She stated before continue. But the question is how? I will leave that up to you because right now, I'm tempted to go to that village personally and raze it to the ground. As her eyes flashed a golden yellow color which made everyone in the tower, including the hidden ANBU, shivered. That's when one of the business members spoke up. I suggest we punish them financially by increasing the amount of exports and technology we send to them and the other villages in Fire Country and double their profits, he said while tilting his glasses up with his index finger. Kushina nodded at his request and looks around. Anyone else has suggestions? She asked, and a shinobi member who was a kunoichi spoke up. The high-ranking missions they trade for hours should be temporarily null and voided until you decide to drop it. The same with the bodyguards for the fire daimyo, stating that he can only request a minimum amount of our ninja, and if he asks, tell him to have Konoha explain. I'm sure they would be more than happy to explain why half of his bodyguards are being sent back to us, and I'm positive our daimyo would agree to your reasons since you two are good friends, Ryukichi-sama, and will demand why Konoha lied to you about your son. She replied with a sick smile on her face. Another shinobi member looked at her with wide eyes. Akira, that is so evil and underhanded, I like it, he said with a grin on his face, and she rubbed her nose with her finger. Thanks, Kaiser, Akira replied while a dark smile appeared on Kushina's face. I like that idea too, Akira-san, Kushina says, and that's when another elder spoke up. If I may ask, Kushina-sama, since your son is one of the few survivors in your family's clan and has the dragon bloodline, wouldn't he fall under the village's CRA? He asked before continue with explanation. I mean, it's a fact that you can't have any more children due to the fact that you had some complications when giving birth to your daughter and son. While Kushina looks at him. We're not trying to force him into any marriages or anything like that, but since he is the only male in the village who possesses the true dragon bloodline, he falls under that law. No one will interfere with who he wants in the clan. I only request that he has at least 3 or more future wives before he turns 18. How does that sound? The elder insisted. Kushina looks around the room and lets out a sigh and replied. Fine, I will agree with this, but Naruto gets to choose his own wives. How does that sound? Kushina asks and gets a nod from them. Before she add in her finishing sentence. But I did found one. Before Naruchan told me about her. All the council was curious, as one of them spoke. So who is she? Well, a daughter of a friend of mine in Konoha, Kushina answered. That made the council surprised. Who? Kushina smiled for the answer. She is the first friend Naruchan made before her mother took her away from him for protection before I told him. And even we keep in touch for ourselves to make sure. Until Joe's shocked and surprising he started to remember the conversation. Kushina-sama. You mean are you talking about? Yup, she is, Kushina replied, had her smile more. So during the rest of the meeting they discussed about the Kyuubi who was sealed inside her son, and why she attacked Konoha. After that, Kushina had an ambassador along with 5 ANBU sent to Konoha to deal with the trade and business deals and informed the Dragon Daimyo about her son still being alive and what Konoha has done to him. Needless to say, the man was not happy and said that he would be informing the Fire Daimyo about this and sending back most of the Dragon Nin he hired as bodyguards sent back into the Hayabusa village ninjas ranks to teach the country a lesson on what happens when they mess with the Dragon Lord's family. Naruto got a chance to visit the man and his family, and the daimyo couldn't help but be impressed with Naruto's strong will. He would definitely become a great dragon ninja in the future. Uzumaki Compound. It was night and Naruto was currently in his bed asleep. Naruto felt a small pull into his mind and found himself in front of a large cage which had a paper on it that said seal. Naruto walked up to it, and when he was close enough he heard an angelic voice. Hello, Kit. The voice said, which made Naruto freak out. Kkyubi? The blonde Namikaze asks and saw a pair of red slitted eyes appear from the other side of the cage. When the figure revealed itself, Naruto couldn't help but blush at the sight. She was 5 feet 8 inches and wore a red kimono that hugged her hourglass figure, and had flawless ivory skin that gave her the appearance of a goddess. She wore ruby red lipstick on her lips, and her hair was crimson and stopped to her mid-back. Canines jutted from her upper lip, and she wore ruby red nail polish on her nails and toenails. What really shocked him was the fox ears on her head and 9 red tails that swayed behind her. Naruto just walked closer to her and looked up at her angelic face. She looks down at him and couldn't help but see how cute he was. She knelt down to meet his eye level and smiled. "Hello, Kit. We finally meet. I'm sorry if I haven't contacted you sooner, but I had just woken up after being sealed into you and I saw what your life was like for the past 6 years, and I have to say that I'm sorry for what has happened to you. No one should have to suffer like you did, and I hope that you can forgive me," she said in a downcast voice. Naruto looked at her and saw the sorrow she had in her eyes. He reached his hands out at the cage and grabs her right hand. She looks up at him with a surprised expression on her face as he rubs his hands into hers. "It's okay, Q. I know you must have had a reason for attacking the village, and I know you're not a bloodthirsty demon who destroys everything," he said while she pulls him into the cage and hugs him. "Thanks, Kit, but you call me Kurumi, and yes, I did have a reason for attacking your village. You see, I sensed an evil presence that was very powerful. I don't exactly know its true location, but while I was searching for it, a man wearing an orange mask and a cloak with red clouds on it used the power of his eyes, which were red with 3 tomos on it, to cast a powerful genjutsu on me, which caused me to go berserk and attack the closest thing that was in my sight. That was your village, or former village. Your father, the 4th Hokage, used the Shiki Fuin, Dead Reaper seal, on me and sealed me into you. I've been in a deep sleep for the past 6 years and woke up when I felt my Yukai healing your body," she explained while Naruto digested the information into his brain. "I see. Say, Kasen said that I had a bloodline based on the dragons. What does that mean?" he asked. Kyubi thought about it for a while and then looked at him. "Well, Kit, that is true, but it won't activate until you turn 7. You have 3 forms of this bloodline, that is body, chakra, and sight. Your body and sight form will come first, and the year after that your chakra form will appear." She snaps her fingers and a statue of a dragon appears. "That, kid, is the form of your bloodline. When you gain all 3 forms, you'll be half human and half dragon, meaning your speed, strength, stamina, 5 senses, and intellect will increase when you get older, and you stop aging at the age of 20. I'll explain the rest when you're older. Now off you go, Kit, you have to get some sleep," she says, and he is pushed out of his mind. Naruto smiles and snuggles into his pillow. "Good night, Kurami Niken," he whispers to himself, and hear a good night, Kit, from the fox. The next day Naruto was eating bacon, eggs, and pancakes with his mother and sister. They kept eating until Naruto spoke up. "Hey, Ka-san." "Yes, Sochi, what is it?" Kushina asked. "I just got to talk to the Kyubi last night," the blonde answers, and she looks up at him. "Really? What did you talk about?" she asked curiously and listened to her son explain everything. After that, she stopped eating and had a thoughtful expression on her face. "I see. So, she was searching for an evil presence that was somewhere near Konoha but ended up being put into a powerful genjutsu by a masked man wearing a cloak with red clouds on them, and had red eyes with 3 spinning tomos in them? Sounds like the Sharingan, copy will I. It figures that the Uchiha clan would be behind this," she thought while Suki and Naruto looked at her, and she looked back at them. "Listen up, you two. I'll be training you after breakfast. Joe and Ryu will be joining us," Kushina said while the servants came and removed the dishes from the table. Then she gets up and they follow her to the training dojo. She goes into a closet and pulls out 2 training GIs. One was red while the other was dark blue. She hands the red one to Suki and the other to Naruto is dark blue. "Go and put those on, and meet me outside the compound," she said while they leave the dojo. Naruto and Suki were out of the compound to see Kushina wearing her red training GI, Joe was wearing a white GI, and Ryu was wearing black. "Alright, now that Naruto and Suki are here, we'll start out by doing 5 laps around the village, and after that we'll take a 5-minute break for water. Once we're done with that, we'll go to the wilderness and practice on stealth and hand-to-hand combat. You'll be learning the katas from our clan's fighting style. Naruto, I'll help you with them since Suki already knows most of them," she said, getting a nod from her son. "When we do that for 2 hours, we'll take a lunch break which will consist of vegetables, fruit, and meat. Next, we'll be doing weapons training and chakra control. You'll learn how to climb trees without using your hands, water walking, and kunai balancing. Once that is finished, we'll head back to the compound and you'll start on your studies, meaning you'll be learning geography, math, science, and history. By next year, you'll be learning the basics on the human anatomy, how to make your own medicines with herbs and other plants, and you'll be doing some survival training afterwards," she says and pulls a scroll out of her GI and unrolls it. "And unseal a pair of ankle and arm weights via poof in front of Ryu, Suki, and Naruto. Put those on and keep them on, so that you can get used to the weight." Kushina orders and they do that. Okay, are you all ready? They nod for understanding. Good. Naruto stick with Ryu and Suki since they know their way around the village. Hi Ka-san, Naruto says, and they run off with Ryu taking the lead. The sun was rising over the mountain and Naruto, Ryu, and Suki were returning back to the compound with the sweaty Naruto carrying a panting Suki on his back. Kushina saw this and ran up to her children while Joe approached Ryu, whose GI was soaked in sweat. Joe gave him a white towel and a glass of water, which Ryu took and gulped down, and then took the towel and wiped the sweat and dirt off his face and hair. Are you okay, Suki-chan? Kushina asked as she removes her daughter from Naruto's back and sets her down and gives her a glass of water. Suki nods and gulps the cool liquid down. Kushina then gives Naruto one and he drinks it also. After the 5-minute break, Kushina takes Naruto to one of the sparring mats while Joe takes Ryu and Suki to the other sparring mat. Okay Sochi, this is a fighting style that's been in our clan since the founding of the villages. It's an ancient and powerful style that only the Uzumaki and the Hayabusa clan can use. It is called the Tenken no Ryujin, Heavenly Fist of the Dragon God. Kushina began to explain. The Tenken no Ryujin has 4 forms. The first form is based on evasion and counterattacking. It's basically a defensive style where you use your opponent's strength against them and is used to disable and not kill. Grapple and submission holds are used in it as well as palm strikes. High-level reflexes and senses are needed for it to work. We also call it the Hisho Ryu, Soaring Dragon. The second form is based on breaking the opponent's bones and causing external damage. Power and speed are needed for it to work, and it too disables but rarely kills unless you go for the neck bone, nose cartilage, skull, or backbone, which is also the spinal cord. The knees, elbows, fists, and feet are used in this form, and it's called the Kibatsu Ryu, Striking Dragon. The third one is the most deadly form of the Tenken no Ryujin. It's an assassination form that is based on killing the opponents by striking any of the 8 vital parts of the human body. They are the lungs, liver, jugular vein, clavicle vein, brain, kidneys, spinal cord, and heart. It can cause both internal and external damage to the person and also shatter bone and destroy internal organs in an instant. It's called the Satsujin no Ryu, Murderous Dragon. The final and most powerful form is called Daigirin no Ryujin, Great Crimson Lotus of the Dragon God. It is a combination of the first 3 forms put into one, and only someone who has mastered every form can use it. She finished explaining. Have you mastered every form, Ka-san? Naruto asked while she nods. Yes, I have. I was 18 by the time I fully mastered it, she said, getting an awe look from her son. Now we'll begin with the Hisho Ryu and Kibatsu Ryu. I want you to mock my form and movements, she said, and performs the katas for the Hisho Ryu. Naruto watched and copies her movements. Remember Sochi. This is a push and pull style. Keep your muscles relaxed and your senses calm, and your breathing steady. You want your movements and energy to flow when you're fighting, she says while pulling her arms and fists back and then pushing them forward into a double palm strike, and Naruto does the same. Like a river? He asked while his mother nods. Yes, Sochi, like river. Now I'm gonna make my movements a little faster and I want you to try to keep up, she says, getting a nod from her son, and they increase the speed of their movements. Kushina, however, couldn't help but be impressed with how fast her son was improving. Incredible. He's only seen the first form for only a couple of seconds and he already understands its principles. It took Suki 2 days to understand it. If only you were here, Minato-kun. You'd be proud of both of your children, she felt impressed about her son's great knowledge. Suki, Ryu, and Joe were watching this and couldn't help but be amazed. Suki was happy, but was a little jealous at her brother. He understands it in only a few seconds while it took me 2 days, she commented with a pout while Joe chuckles. No need to be jealous, Suki-chan. It's probably his way of learning, the white dragon replies while Ryu nods. I agreed, even though it took me 4 days to understand the first form, Ryu said in a joking manner while Suki playfully punches him in the shoulder. Quiet you, she says while he rubs his shoulder. They train like this for the rest of the week and Naruto starts to improve until he was at Suki's and Ryu's level and starts to spar with them. Kushina was very proud of how well they were progressing and couldn't help but think about how strong they will become when they're older. Only time will tell. Chapter ended. Chapter 3, The Dragon Awakens from the Mountains. Story starts. 2 years has passed since Naruto reunited with his mother and twin sister. He's also become good friends with Ryu. They would always talk about being the strongest ninja in their village and would practice their katas in the Uzumaki dojo. Kushina helped Naruto improve on his writing, math, geography, and history. They knew both tree walking and water walking and were also good with kunai and shuriken and knew a few C-rank jutsu that Kushina and Joe taught them. They also learned the basic sword katas for the Hiten Mitsurugi and know the basic forms of the Tenken no Ryujin. They're also learning archery and how to use other weapons like the bow's staff, kusarigama, scythe, and other weapons. and I will had update the Hiten Mitsurugi from one of my favorite stories. Right now the three were in the backyard practicing their shuriken, and Kunai throwing on a dummy who was the target. Joe was watching their progress while Kushina was at the tower working on some paperwork. When word got out to the villagers that Kushina's son was still alive and how he was treated in Konoha, they were furious and demanded retribution from Konoha. Some even wanted to declare war on the village of Konoha, but Kushina informed them that Konoha will be paying for their actions and that she and the daimyo will be dealing with this. While Joe was watching this, an Anbu with a black dragon mask on appeared kneeling behind the man. "What is it, Anbu?" Joe asked, and the Anbu lipped up. "Sir, the Ryukage sent me here to tell you that Ayam-san and her daughters are here. Also Shizuru-san has brought over Kureha and Momiji," he says, and Joe looks over his shoulder at him. "Let them in," he approved, getting a hi from the Anbu who shunned Shins away. Suki decided to take a small break while watching Ryu and Naruto continue to throw kunai and shuriken at the practice dummy. They then ran out of shuriken to throw and looked at the dummy. "Looks like we're tied again, Ryu," Naruto said, and Ryu nods, seeing the results that all targets were tie. "It seems so," Ryu answers while they pull their throwing weapons out of the dummy. Suki sighed for seeing her brother and Ryu for the challenge and gets up. After all, they seems their accuracy is 100% or less hit the target. "Are you two done showing off?" she asked with an annoyed tone, while the two ninja in training rubbing the back of their heads sheepishly while Suki had her arms folded and was tapping her foot on the ground. "Yes, we're done, Suki, so you can stop complaining," Naruto said in a whiny tone and had to move sideways from a punch his Amuto tried to deliver to the side of his head, and he tripped her foot, making her stumble and hit the ground. Suki got up and rubbed her nose and glared at Naruto, who gave her a raspberry, and a tick mark appeared on her face. She was about to charge until Ryu had her in a full Nelson or strangle and kept her from trying to attack Naruto, who was making faces at her. "I'm gonna kick your butt, Nii-san!" Suki exclaimed while her legs flail in the air. Ryu was struggling to keep her at bay until he saw a wasp which landed on his nose and he turned pale. "Gah! A wasp! I hate wasps!" he cried out and released Suki while running around, waving his arms and hands around frantically while the wasp got off his nose and flew away. Suki realized she was free and grinned evilly at her brother, who was now sweating bullets. She then started to crack her knuckles, which caused Naruto to take a few steps back. And then he bolted off with Suki on his tail. "Come back here, Naruto, and take your beating like a man," she yelled while Naruto yelled back. "I'm only 8, you dumb redhead." "What? I'm gonna get you. For that I'm gonna knock you into next week," she cried out while Ryu was watching the yellow and red blur run around the practice field sighing. Joe, who was watching, sweat dropped at the scene. "They're definitely Kushina's kids, alright," he mumbled, and then saw Naruto, who was dodging her wild punches and kicks while grinning at her. "Hold still, Baka, so I can hit you," she screamed out while Ryu sighed. "At times like these, I'm glad that I'm the only child," he mumbles to himself. Suki tried to punch Naruto again, but he vanishes, shocking her, and appeared behind her. Before she could do anything, Naruto started to tickle her sides, causing her to cry out in laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha! Nii-san, stop! Ha 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 ha! I ha ha give ha ha up!" she cried out while she continued to laugh out. Naruto stopped so that she could breathe and glared at Naruto, who just smiles at her, and she ruffles his hair. "Suki, don't do that!" he cried while she grins. "That's for calling me a dumb redhead. You do know that Ka-san is a redhead too, right?" she asked with reason and made Naruto paled and laughed nervously. While that was happening, 5 figures appeared from the back of the compound. They were Ayam, Shizuru, Ain, Kureha, and Momiji. Ain was an 8-year-old girl with purple hair that stopped near her neck and also had ruby red eyes. She was also wearing a purple ninja gi with butterflies on them. Kureha was 10 years old. She had black hair that was tied into a ponytail, brown eyes, and wore what looked like a white and red shrine maiden outfit. Momiji was 8, and also had long black hair that is tied into a ponytail which started on the top of her head. She had clear hazel brown eyes and wore a white and red ninja gi. Ayam was wearing a white and blue kimono and had long brown hair and light ruby eyes. Shizuru was holding both Momiji's and Kureha's hands while Ain was holding her mother's hand as they approached the heirs and heiress. "Joken!" Shizuru calls out. The white dragon turns around to see Shizuru with the other females walking towards them. Naruto, Suki, and Ryu make their way towards Joe and the others and stop next to the man. Suki sees Momiji and Kureha and waves while they do the same. Ain was hiding behind Ayam, who was sighing. "Hi, Suki," Momiji says, but then notices the blonde, and asked, "Who's that, Suki?" That blinks Suki about her question and looks at her brother and shrugs. "Oh, it's just my baka of a brother," she says while Naruto face faults, and then gets up glaring at his Amuto. Both sisters' eyes widen when they see the blonde, who just laughs nervously, and walks towards them. Hi. I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. He greeted introduce and they bowed their heads before the true heir of the Hayabusa clan. Naruto blinks at them, and then speaks up. You two don't have to bow to me. They then look up at Naruto with shocked expressions on their faces. But Naruto-sama, you're the true heir to the Hayabusa clan. It would be disrespectful of us to not. Kureha insisted, only for Naruto to interrupt her. Ma. You don't have to be so formal. I'm just a kid like you two are. And to me, respect is earned, not given, he says while placing both his arms behind his head. The girls just stare at him when he says those words. Aside from that, I would like us to be friends, Naruto said, grinning while their faces return to normal and they smile at Naruto, who holds his hands out for them to shake, which they did. As a tint of pink appeared on Momiji's face though. After shaking their hands, the sisters went to go talk with Ryu and Suki. Shizuru walks over to Joe and kisses him on the cheek. Ryu sticks his tongue out in disgust and turns his head away from them. Naruto looks at the other woman, who smiles at him as he walks over to her and bows. Hello? I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I am bows back and speaks. Hello Naruto-kun, I am Tenshin. Naruto smiles back but then notices a tint of purple hair peeking out and then hides behind I am again. Eh? Naruto said as he leans over to the right. I am notices this and giggles. Oh, where are my manner? I haven't introduced you to my daughter. Come on out, Ayin-chan. There's no need to be afraid, she said with a calming and soothing tone. The girl then walks around slowly and appears in Naruto's line of vision. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. Ayin-chan is just a little shy, she said while Naruto nods at her. He approaches the timid girl and holds his hand out. Hi Ayin-chan. Want to be friends? Naruto asked, and she looks up at his grinning face and a small smile appears on her face. Sure, she says in an almost quiet tone. When she takes his hand, he takes her towards the others. Ayam saw this, and she was happy that her daughter made a friend, but was sad due to the fact that she was treated like a plague in the Mugen Tenshin village and everyone there kept their children away from her. The only two in the clan that associated with her, other than Ayam, was Hate and Kasumi. Ryukage Tower. Kushina was currently sitting with the daimyo of Dragon Country with two of his samurai guards flanking his left and right side. The man was by no means weak-looking, somewhat angular face and phenomenally developed physique. He had a build that would make any warrior proud, and he also wore a blue battle kimono with arm guards on his forearms. He wore a floor-length, white cloak with a red collar on it, black pants with European-style boots, and he also had long black hair that was tied into a ponytail. Hiko Seijiro 13 from Rurouni Kenshin or Samurai X. Welcome to the Hayabusa village, Seijiro-sama. I've prayed you had a safe trip here? She asked while the man nods to her question. Yes it was, Kushina-san. Now on to business. You stated in the letter your A&B you sent me that an important situation came up in the village, he said mature while she nods back. Hi. Do you remember when I got married to Minato Namikaze, who was the former Hokage of Konohagakure, and we were going to have twins? Kushina asked, getting a nod from the man. About the marriage years ago. Yes. I was there to witness the marriage between you two. Why? Seijiro wondered. Kushina sips a cup of green tea and continues. Well, you see, sir, when I was preparing to give birth with twins, both of them, on the other hand, the village was attacked by the Kyubi no Yoko. She finished while the man's eyes widened. Why would one of the guardians of nature attack the village? Did Konoha do something to provoke the fox? Seijiro asks and she sighs. That's what I wanted to know. Apparently, she was in Hai no Kuni searching for an evil presence that worried even her. When she was doing that, a man wearing an orange swirl mask and black cloak with red clouds on it caught her off guard and cast a powerful genjutsu on her using an eye that I believe was the Sharingan. She paused for a moment so that he could absorb the information and spoke up again. Apparently whoever did that was a member of the Uchiha clan, since only they have eyes like that. It resulted in her going into her berserk state and attacking the first thing she set her eyes on, Konoha. During that attack, my late husband found a way to seal Kyubi by summoning the Shinigami and sealing her. But the cost of summoning the god of death was your souls, so Minato-kun died during the process, Kushina said, and had to hold back the tears she was feeling. But Kushina, how did he seal the Kyubi into? Seijiro asked about that, and Kushina sighs in frustration and speaks up. He sealed the Kyubi into one of our children. One whom the Sandaime said he died during the process. He was the first one born, and he spent the last 6 years in that village being beaten and spat on by those ignorant, short-minded fools, and it's taking all my willpower not to declare war on that foolish old man, she said with answer in a dark tone while clenching her fists under the table, not realizing that she was slowly releasing Ki, making the samurai nervous and the daimyo to raise an eyebrow. Please calm down, Kushina, he said while she breathes in and out to subside her temper. Forgive me, Seijiro-sama. I didn't mean to, she started to say, but the man waved his hand in dismissal. Think nothing of it. So what is the name of your firstborn who was treated like that? Seijiro asked. My son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the true heir of the Hayabusa clan. She answered, causing the man's eyes to widen on shock. Hiruzen Sarutobi lied to me about my son's so-called demise and let those fools in Konoha treat him like a criminal. He not only lied to a kage of another village, he interfered in a foreign clan's affair and kept the heir from the clan in a hostile environment. Pardon my language, sir, but I cannot forgive that son of a bitch for what he's done, and every civilian and ninja in the village are demanding retribution for this, and if Konoha doesn't make a response for their actions, then I have no choice but to declare war. The council has already decided to increase the prices for trade, exports, and economical goods, and I'm already prepared to send our Ryunin who are working as bodyguards for the fire daimyo back to the village. She explained while Seijiro lets out a hm sound and rubs his chin in thought. The man looks back at her, and a small smile appears on his face. I agree with those terms, Kushina. Send a message to the daimyo of Hai no Kuni stating that you, with the permission of the dragon daimyo Seijiro Hiko of Ryu no Kuni, are summoning the dragonin that he's hired back to the Hayabusa village. I want your council to double the price for trade, exports, etc. that go to Hai no Kuni's ports. If they have a problem with it, then I'll have both the Hokage, his advisors, the fire daimyo, as well as you and your advisors come to a private summit here, and we can discuss their actions against your son. You'll have my back in this, Kushina, and personally, I believe that Konoha needs to wake up to reality, since they believe they are the strongest village. Perhaps in the elemental nations, but not here. Not to mention that nearly all of my samurai could take on a Joun into ANBU level nin. He said, declared, and Kushina smiles and bows. Thank you, Seijiro-sama. She says, and he smiles back. Think nothing of it, Kushina. Your clan and my family have been comrades since the beginning. I would like to meet your son someday. Perhaps I'll see him during the Chunin exams in a few years. Well, I must get going. I have a ton of paperwork waiting for me in my office, and if I don't deal with it, my wife will not let me hear the end of it. He says while cursing like a sailor in his mind. Kushina lets out a small laugh after hearing this. Same with me. Only Suki-chan will pout and berate me for not finishing it on time and not coming in for dinner early. Naruto, however, is a mystery when it comes to me and my duties. He just looks at me and blink, then walks away. I tried bringing them both with me to show them what I do, and they fall asleep most of the day. She commented and explained with a grin on her face. Seijiro laughs at that and shakes his head that admitted. As fun as this. I have to get going, Kushina. He says while getting up and walking out the door with his samurai flanking him. Give my regards to Haruka-chan. She says, and he waves his hand back as a response. As soon as he left, Kushina pulled out a scroll and started writing in it. 3 minutes later, she seals it up and wraps a black ribbon on it and snaps her fingers. An ANBU with a black dragon mask appears and kneels before Kushina. Yes, Ryukage-sama? He asked. Have this message sent via messenger hawk to the daimyo of Hai no Kuni. She said, holding the scroll out, and the ANBU gets up and takes the scroll. Hi. He says and vanishes. She looks at the clock on the wall, and it says 5:30 p.m. She then takes off her kage hat and places it on a hat hanger. She then removes her robes, wearing a red and black ANBU battlesuit, and walks out of her office. She sees her secretary putting some files away and speaks up. I'm leaving, Reika-chan. Take care of yourself. She said, and Reika looks up at her and smiles. You too, Ryukage-sama. Kushina nods back and shins out of the dragon tower. Meanwhile, with Naruto, and Ryu has it. He was chasing Naruto, trying to tag him, but the blonde was too fast. Come on, Ryu! Are you that slow? Naruto exclaimed, and Ryu growls and adds chakra to his feet to increase his speed. Naruto stops at a tree and turns around to see Ryu grinning, and he leaps at the blonde. Gotcha! He yells. Naruto leaps over Ryu's flying form while the young dragon in training crashes into the tree headfirst. Naruto lands on the ground and sees Ryu's form slide down the tree. He then clutches his face in pain and glares at the grinning blonde, who takes off into the woods, and Ryu gets up chasing after the blonde. Little did they know that two shadowy figures that looked like demons were watching them. So, that blonde boy is the true heir of the Hayabusa clan, as well as the Ryukage's son? Let's kill them along with the other children. The one on the left stated. But we must proceed with caution. The white dragon and his wife are close by. The one on the right said while the other nods and they vanish. At the compound. The girls were sitting in a circle talking while Ayam was talking with Joe and Shizuru about Ain. I can't take her back to the Mugen Tenshin village, Joe-san. Ever since Rado attacked me and Ain was born, everyone, even certain members of the clan, look at her with disdain, and it hurts me to see them treat her like that. Ayam said as a few tears fell from her eyes. Ayam continued. Shurden has tried to reason with the members, but they refuse to acknowledge her as an heir to the clan since she carries the blood of a traitor in her veins. The villagers even pull their children away from her because they don't want her to infect them with her taint. It's only a matter of time before one of them decides to kill her, and I can't let that happen. While Joe and Shizur look shocked, Joe's face returns to normal and speaks up. I see, he said, and looks at Aang, who was laughing with the other girls until Naruto leaped out of a bush and into the middle of the circle panting, scaring the girls. Ni-san! Suki cried, and Naruto was about to say something until a black blur named Ryu tackled him, and they were now rolling around the ground wrestling while the girls jumped away and watched as Naruto and Ryu were fighting dirty. Shizur and Ayam laugh at the scene while Joe sighs and shook his head for couldn't help. That was when Kushina appeared next to Joe, wondering what's going on until she saw Ryu and Naruto glaring at each other with dirt and scratches on their faces while being held back by Momiji, Suki, and Ain while Kureha tried to be the peacekeeper. Kushina sighs and Joe chuckles at this. Alright you kids, let's go back inside. Shizur calls out. They all look at her and nod. Naruto and Ryu were about to join in, but Kushina appeared and grabbed them by their collars. You two need to get cleaned up, she added, and they groaned while being led into the bathing area. After getting cleaned up, Naruto and Ryu were in a new pair of ninja GIs and headed for the living room where the other girls were, but Ain was missing. Naruto sees Momiji and sneaks up behind her. Kureha sees Naruto behind her sister and giggles while Momiji blinks at her, wondering why her Nei-san was giggling. As she turns her head, that happens to see a grinning Naruto and eeps, causing her to falls on her, but while looking at a laughing Naruto. She stands up and puffs her cheeks out and folds her arms, calling him a meanie. Naruto stops his laughter and then pulls her into a hug, causing a tint of pink to appear on her face. I'm sorry, Momo-chan, he says and releases the hug, making her sputter and then turn red. Don't call me that, she yelled out, only to cover her mouth in shock when she realizes that she yelled at the true heir of the Dragon Clan. Naruto just blinks at her with his hands behind his head, and then a snort escapes from his mouth, and he laughs even harder. Momiji looks at the ground and pouts while Kureha laughs at her emoto. Ma, I didn't mean to embarrass you like that, Momiji-chan, I was just teasing you, he said and pats her on the back. She looks up at him with a pout still on her face. I want another hug, she pleads and spreads her arms out for another one while doing the puppy eyes jutsu. Naruto shrugs and gives her another one while she squeals and hugs him even tighter. Kureha chuckles at this and looks at Suki, who was also giving Ryu the pouty look while he just sweat dropped and his right eye twitched. I want a hug too, Ryukun, Suki insisted while his eyebrow twitched. No. He refuses and she sticks her lip out even further. Please? She begged and her eyes grew big, making Ryu twitch more. Oh, for Kami's sake, she's worse than Ka-san, he thought, but then lets out a sigh of defeat and opens his arms out. Fine, he mumbles. Suki then grinned and glomped Ryu, and the boy's face turned blue from being hugged too tightly. He looks at Kureha, who was holding her hands over her mouth to stop from laughing. Help me, he squeaked out. Momiji stopped hugging Naruto and went over to pry Suki off of Ryu. So Kureha-chan, are you a shinobi in training? He asked, and she shakes her head for a no. No. I'm training to be a shrine maiden. When I'm old enough, it'll be my duty to protect the Hayabusa clan's treasure, Kureha said, and he nods. Oh. So Momo-chan is training to be a kunoichi? Naruto asked, and she nods while said girl slumped her shoulders at being called that name again. Mim. She didn't want to be a shrine maiden like me, because she doesn't want to spend her life doing nothing. Mom tried to convince her to be one, but Momiji is stubborn like our father, Kureha explained with a grin on her face while Naruto chuckles. I am not, Momiji yelled while Kureha just grinned at her. Naruto snickered and was about to say something until he heard someone yelling. Don't touch me. I hate you and our clan. The voice yells, making everyone jump up. That was when a slide door opens up and Aang was seen running out of the room she and Ayam were in and heading out the door with tear flying from her eyes. Aang-chan, please wait. Ayam cries out as she appears out of the room also, but her daughter was already gone. Kushina appeared, so does Joe and Shizur. What's going on here? Kushina asked, wondering what happened. Ayam looks at the ground and tears form in her eyes. Aang just ran after I told her the truth about her birth. She answers and covers her eyes with her hands so no one could see her crying. Shizur and Joe's eyes widen while Kushina looks at them with a raised eyebrow. Anyone care to explain this to me? The redhead Kage asked, and Joe lets out a sigh. Ryu, he called, getting his son attention. You and the other kids go look for Aang, he says, and he nods. Hi Tusan. Ryu and the others leave the compound and split up to look for her. With Naruto. Naruto was currently running through the forest looking in every direction. He stopped for a while and heard sobbing. He then runs to the direction and sees Ain sitting near a lake with her knees hugged to her body and was sobbing. Naruto walked over to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. She looked up and turned her head to see Naruto, who had a concerned look on his face. Ain's eyes were red and puffy from crying and she looks away from him. "What's wrong, Ain-chan?" Naruto asks her. When she doesn't say anything, Naruto walks around and kneels and watches as more tears fell from her eyes. "I hate them," she mumbled. Naruto raised an eyebrow at her. "Hate who?" he asks, and she got up and looked at the ground. "All of them. My mother, the Tenshin clan, the village, all of them. I hate them all," she screamed out while Naruto's eyes widen in shock as he stands up. "Why would you hate your own family, Ain-chan?" he asked, for he wants to know. Ain looks up at Naruto and releases a sob. She then hugs Naruto tightly while sobbing into his chest. That surprises Naruto, but he does the only thing he could think of. He hugs her back and tries to calm her down by telling her it was okay. While that was happening, a creature with a humanoid appearance and black wings with what looked like a spiked club in his right hand was sitting on top of a tree chuckling. "Well, isn't that cute? The mice are cuddling. Too bad it'll be their last," he said, and leaps into the air with his club raised and comes down fast. Kyubi was resting in his mind and she suddenly felt a dark presence ascending to her vessel and the girl. "Kit! Jump out of the way now!" she yelled. Naruto's eyes widen and he looks at the ground to see a shadow growing under them. He looks up and sees a bird-like creature coming down at them with a spiky club raised. "Kyuso! Shit," he says, and then he scoops Ain up bridal style and manages to leap out of the incoming club, but the shockwave from the weapon sent them flying backwards and tumbling onto the ground. The two ninja in training groan and look up to see the creature in the crater with his club posed into a smashing position. He then chuckles darkly and stands up. It was a Tengu. A bird-like demon who are considered to be a ninja's worst enemy. So the little dragon has some skill after all. This might prove too entertaining for me, the red Tengu said as Naruto and Ain get up and the blonde's eyes widen in shock. What the heck is that thing? Naruto asks Ain, whose eyes were wide also, and she takes a step back in fear. Tengu. Naruto-kun, we must run. We're no match for demon of his class, she explained, grabbing his arm. Naruto looks at her with a shocked and scared look on his face. That's a Tengu? I thought they were rare to encounter, he cried as the Tengu stated to walk towards them. They are. Their entire population has dwindled down to a few since the battle of the Archfiend on Mount Fuji. We need to run now, Naruto-kun. It'll kill us if we stay here. Tengu are B-class demons who enjoy fighting and they have been known to kill and eat children, she statement, and Naruto becomes pale as the demon licked his lips. It's been a while since I tasted the flesh of a true dragon. Luckily me and my brother will get the opportunity to eat you, the redhead, and the Hayabusa boy. I'll save the little girl over there for dessert, he says with an evil smile on his face. Naruto and Ain kept walking backwards as the Tengu moved forward. Just give up, little dragon. I can kill you both without breaking a sweat, so why delay the inevitable? Tengu asked. Little did he know, Naruto was reaching into his pouch and grabbed 2 flashbangs. Sorry pal, but we're not on the menu, he replied, and then he pulls his right arm out and throws 2 black spheres at him. The Tengu snorts and grabs them. Do you think your little tricks will work on? Tengu says and looks at the spheres that started to glow. His eyes widen when they explode and turn into a flash, blinding the demon. Arag! My eyes! You little ningen, you blinded me! Tengu roared out and clutched his head in pain while Naruto smirked and grabbed Ain's hand and they ran into the forest. The Tengu shakes his head and opens his eyes. His vision was blurry for a while, and when it clears, he sees the brats were gone and growls. That mangy flesh bag. I'll crush him with my bare hands. He then spreads his wings and takes off into the sky. Meanwhile, Naruto and Ain were leaping from the tree branches trying to head back into the Hayabusa village. Thank Kami. I had those in my pouch, Naruto said. Brought some flash bombs, and Ain nods. That Tengu is not far, Naruto-kun, we can't outrun him, she says, getting a nod back from the blonde. I know, but we can outsmart him. You saw how cocky he was earlier, he stated, until he senses something heading for them and sees the Tengu diving right for them. Crap! Ain split up! He cries out, and they do as the Tengu crashes through the trees and lands on the ground hard, skidding a few feet. So, you mice want to play hide and seek, eh? HM. Very well, I'll be the seeker, he says and punches a tree, knocking it off its roots and onto the ground. Uzumaki compound. Kushina was shocked and pissed as Ayam told her about Ain's birth. So Rado raped you on the day shirt and left to make a negotiations with us, resulting in Ain being in your womb, and then became a missinine afterwards? Kushina asked, and the woman nodded. Kushina sighed disappointed and asked. Troublesome. So what do you plan on doing, since your village is on edge with her, not only being a member of the clan, but is the spawn of a traitor? Ayam was about to respond until an ANBU appeared panting, while Joe stands up and glares at the ANBU. What is the meaning of this? Joe demanded. Forgive me, Joe-sama. But the scouts in the forest spotted a tengu flying above the forest. He reported, and the four's eyes widened in shock, and Kushina jumped up and grabbed the ANBU by his cloak. A tengu? What the hell is a tengu doing here? She yelled and demanded, and the ANBU sweated under her gaze. I don't know, Ryukichi-sama. It seemed to be hunting, I think, he said. Until another ANBU appeared, reported. Ryukichi-sama, a tengu was seen in the compound district attacking a group of kids, and your daughter, along with Joe's and 2 other girls, are being chased by it. We already have some of our chunin and jonin holding it off. Kushina eyes widen even more, as does Joe's and Shizure. What? Take me to the previous location now, Joe exclaimed, and the ANBU nods and they shun Shin away. Kushina grabbed her katana and rushes out the door. Kushina! Shizure yelled out, only for the redhead to look back. Stay there and look out for Ayam. We don't know if more will show up, she says, and then an ANBU with a black dragon mask on appears, as do 5 more. Kushina looks at them and ordered. You 6 are with me. We're heading to the southeastern part of the forest. As they nod and vanish. Meanwhile, a group of chunin and jonin were fighting of a blue tengu who was dodging and evading kunai and shuriken. Don't let that thing get to the children, a jonin yelled out, until a chunin was sent crashing into another. One chunin charges at the tengu with a katana and swings it at the creature's torso, but it swings its club and swats the ninja away. Another one leaps into the air and brings his sword down on its head, only for the demon to smirk and grab his head. He then throws the chunin into a wall, causing it to leave an imprint of the unconscious man. How boring. I expect you dragon nin to be tougher than this, he commented, and then spreads his wings out, releasing a huge gust of wind at the remaining ones, who are sent flying and crashing into the ground. Suki, Momiji, Ryu and Kureha were trapped in a corner. Ryu was holding a katana out while the girls were holding on to each other. The tengu smirked and walked towards the ninja in training. He was a few feet away from them until a volley of shuriken and kunai headed for him, and he backed away. That was when a man wearing a white shinobi shizoku, or ninja uniform, with some armor, landed between the tengu and the children with his katana drawn. 15 ANBU appeared around them with their blades drawn also. The tengu looks around for a while and smirks. It appears that I am outnumbered. As fun as it would be to fight the white dragon of the Hayabusa clan, I only came here to kill the girl and your son, but sadly, I won't get that chance, Blue Tengu said and spreads his wings. Joe narrows his eye at the demon. And what makes you think I let you leave here alive, Tengu? Joe asks in a dark tone while the demon chuckles. Simple. You don't want to end up burying more bodies than you need to, he said, only for Joe to growl. So farewell, he said while glowing and vanishing in a flash of lights. Joe sighs and sheathes his sword while the ANBU go help the ones who were severely injured. Ryu drops the sword and lets out a sigh of relief. Joe walks towards the 4 children and looks down at Ryu. Are you all okay? He asked, and they nod until Suki spoke up. Where's my brother and Ain, Joaji? She asked. Hopefully your brother found Ain and has not encountered the other Tengu, he said while their eyes widen. Meanwhile, Naruto was exhausted, as was Ain. No matter what they did, they couldn't get away from the Tengu. Most of the trees in the forest were leveled and there were crates in certain parts. Naruto-kun, we can't keep this up. He's too fast and too powerful. What do we do? She asks, and then Blonde lets out a frustrating sigh. I don't know, Ain-chan. I used everything I had in my pouch and my chakra is almost gone, he stated, and that was when the Tengu landed in front of them, growling in frustration, scaring the 2. I've had enough of this game of cat and mouse. Now I'll swash you mangy flesh bags, he says and swings his club down at them, and they barely dodge it. Before Naruto could react, he is snatched up by the Tengu and brought Naruto to his eye level, while the blonde struggles to get out of his iron grip. You mangy dragon. Did you really think you could get away from me? He says and slams his fist on the ground with Naruto in it simultaneously while Ain watches in horror. After slamming the blonde in the ground the 12th time, he brings Naruto, who is now bleeding from a gash in his forehead, back to his eye level. I'm not gonna kill you yet, boy, I'm gonna make you watch as I kill the little girl here. The red Tengu with a sneer on his face while Naruto coughs up blood. The Tengu smirks at this, and then drops the blonde's limp body on the ground, and then makes his way towards a frightened Ain. Naruto painfully lifts his head and watches as the demon makes his way towards Ain. Naruto tries to move, but it felt like every bone in his body was broken. The Tengu raises his club into the air and grins and yelled out, Time to die, little ninjen! And lets Ain to scream out loud as he brings the club down. Naruto watches this in slow motion while a golden aura surrounds his body. Asterisk thump thump asterisk. Something deep within Naruto was slowly rising and growling. The aura around him was getting bigger. Asterisk thump thump asterisk. His eyes flashed from blue to a gold-yellow color and become slitted with a tint of red and change back. The canines in his upper lip become longer, and his nails become longer, forming into claws. Asterisk thump thump asterisk. His growl becomes a snarl and he slowly got up as the aura swirled around him like a twister and his injuries started to heal. Kyubi saw the dragon statue become surrounded with a gold aura and chuckles. It's finally awakened, she said, and the statue lets out a roar. The Tengu suddenly stops when he senses a power behind him. He turns around to see Naruto, who was snarling while flexing his clawed hands while the gold aura twists around him and then forms into the head of a dragon that lets out a roar that sends out a small shockwave, making the Tengu cover his eyes with his arm. Ain sees this also, and her eyes had a look of shock and awe on her face as she saw this. Kushina and the ANBU were leaping through the trees when she felt the power. Oh Kami, he's activated his dragon's blood. I have to get there fast, she thought, and increased her speed. The dragon head disappears and Naruto lets out a deafening roar that shakes the ground. He then vanishes, and the next thing the Tengu knew, he was slashed across the chest by 5 golden claws and blood seeps out from the wound. He takes a few steps back as he saw the look on Naruto's face. His clawed right hand had blood on it, his fangs were bared and his eyes were now golden yellow and slitted with tints of red in them. The red Tengu smirks as he looks at Naruto. Looks like the dragon's blood inside you has finally awakened, but it won't save you, he yells out and swings his club sideways at Naruto's head. The blonde leaps over it and spin kicks the demon in the head, making it snap back. Naruto then raises his clawed hand at the Tengu. He turns his head and his eyes widen as the clawed hand descended towards his face. He manages to twist his head a little, but it resulted in him having his left eye slashed open and blood spurted from the destroyed eye. Jaya! He cried out as he clutched his head in pain and agony while Naruto lands and continues to snarl. The Tengu looks at the blonde with hatred in his eye and senses the Ryukage and her ANBU heading this way. Consider yourself lucky, little dragon, but next time I will kill you, he says and glows until he vanishes into a mixture of multicolored lights. Naruto turns his head at Ain, who continues to look at him in shock. The blonde smiles at her, then collapsed onto the ground. Ain snaps out of her daze and runs towards the unconscious blonde and kneels down. She then turns him over and places his head on her lap. Ain looks at the boy's calm expression and smiles. Thank you, Naruto-kun, she said, and a tint of pink appears on her face, and that was when Kushina and the others appeared. 2 days later. Naruto slowly opens his eyes and finds himself in a bed and a room covered in white. He had some bandages on his face, and he was wearing a deep blue robe. He then got up and let out a groan. He then jumps out of the bed and lands on the floor, but then hears the door open. Appearing from the other side was Ain, wearing a purple kimono with a pink butterfly on the front of it. Her eyes widen when she sees a grinning Naruto, who is now awake. She then runs towards the blonde and hugs him, while a grunt escapes from his mouth. The blonde hugs her back and lets out a smile. They release the hug and Ain looks at Naruto with concern and worry in her eyes. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? She asked, and the blonde nods. Yeah. I'm fine. But I'm really hungry, he says as his stomach growls out loud. Naruto blushes when he hears this and Ain giggles. She then takes his hand and leads him out of the room. As they walk down the hallway and into the dining where the others were eating, Kushina stops and sees her son. The next thing Naruto knew, he found his face being buried into his mother's chest and was being crushed in a hug by the redhead. MMHPH. Naruto muffled out while waving his arms in the air frantically. Suki was laughing at the scene and Ayam and Ain were giggling. And Ith-san. I and Ith. Naruto muffled out loud. Kushina realized that she's crushing her son, pulls him out and he breathes in a lot of air and then glares at his mother, who was blushing in embarrassment and chuckling sheepishly. Sorry, Sochi. How do you feel? She asks with a concerned look on her face. I feel great, but can I eat please? Activating my bloodline burned all the energy I've had and I'm starting to see 3 of you, Ka-san. He whined. Kushina giggles at this and carries him over to the dining table and sets him in a chair. Ain, would you be a dear and help feed my son? She asked. A tint of pink appeared on Ain's face, and she nods and sits in the other chair that was next to Naruto. When she set a bowl of rice and fried salmon in front of him, she pulls out a pair of chopsticks from the table, and then grabs some rice and holds it out in front of Naruto, who takes the rice into his mouth and swallows it. Thanks, Ain-chan, he says, and she smiles and nods at him. You're welcome, she replied and continues to feed him. Kushina and Ayam were watching this, and inside their minds, they were screaming kawaii. Suki had a look of disgust on her face but kept eating. Kushina was also proud that Naruto activated a part of his bloodline and knew that Suki would activate hers soon. She also wondered what the future would hold for her children. Only time would tell. Chapter ended. Chapter 4, Retribution, Godparent, and the Wave. Story starts. After the Tengu incident, when Naruto activated his bloodline, Kushina decided that it was time for Naruto and Suki to learn about the power of their bloodline. Suki managed to activate hers when they were practicing their survival skills and were attacked by a rogue bear. Apparently they activated the eyes, body and chakra-based part of their bloodline. All that was left was the elemental-based ones, and it should activate when they turned 12. Kushina first taught them how to use the eye-based ability, which gave them different types of visions like thermal, night, or combine both into enhance that allows their eyes to zoom in and out like the Byakugan. And based on solid eye and MGS4. Then the body, on the other hand, was a little difficult because it gave the person the ability to morph certain parts of your body into the appendage of a dragon, like claws, scales that were stronger than diamond, spikes, wings, and a tail. The chakra-based one gave them a second source of chakra which allowed them to use the dragon art, Ryuten, techniques which were like ninjutsu, but they used incantations before calling out the name. And maybe I will based on Dragon Slayer magic in Fairy Tail, 6 basics only. Or American Dragon, Jake Long. Sooner or later, they will be learned the main branch or second branch's ability of the dragon bloodline very soon. Ain was staying with the Uzumaki family from the request of Im and Shurden, who agreed to this. But this didn't please certain members of the council who wanted the girl to be killed, but both Kushina and Shurden stated that no harm will come to Ain, or else they will be the ones who will die. Kasumi was saddened when she heard that Ain is no longer a part of the clan, so was her brother, Hate. She did get to say goodbye to her half-sister and got to meet Naruto, much to Ain's annoyance because the girl gained a small crush on the blonde when he called her Sumi-chan and gave her a hug. Kasumi then told Ain that their mother told her about her secret, but that she didn't care, and that she still loved Ain and that they were family and best friends no matter what. Those words caused Ain to cry and hug the person that became her first friend. After saying goodbye to Hate, Shurden gave Ain scrolls that contained their family's fighting style and ninja arts. After that, she left to live with the Uzumakis. 2 years have passed since Ain stayed with the Uzumakis. She, Suki, Momiji, Kureha, and Kasumi were all best friends now. Too bad for Naruto, because whenever Ain, Momiji, and Kasumi tried to spend some time alone with him, but it would result in the three getting into a glaring contest with each other, and Naruto wondering why they always acted this way around him. Naruto tried asking Shizuru-base this, but she patted him on the head and told him to ask his mother about it, which he did only for Kushina to stare at him for a while and burst out laughing. Right now Naruto and Ryu were at a lake swimming laps to the other side. Naruto now looked like a younger version of his father due to the fact that his whisker marks were now gone, but were replaced with slitted eyes and fangs that jutted from his upper lip. Ryu's hair was in a ponytail, and it stopped near his upper back. Naruto was currently in the lead with Ryu a few inches behind him. Naruto increased his pace and Ryu does the same. When they were close to the other side, Naruto taps the edge of land, turns around and pushes himself forward, while Ryu does the same. The two dragons in training were now shoulder to shoulder as they head to the other side of the lake. Naruto is now ahead of Ryu by a few inches, and when they approach the land, Naruto taps it first, and Ryu does the same. As the blonde pulls himself up onto the land, as does Ryu. "What's the score now, Naruto?" Ryu asked while Naruto grabbed 2 towels from a rock and tosses one to Ryu. 52-49. "I'm ahead of you by 3. He stated while Ryu grunts and wiping his hair. "Say, doesn't your Kasan have to go to a private summit with the daimyo today?" Ryu asked, getting a nod from the blonde who sat on the ground. "Yeah. Something to do with it of how Konoha interfered in foreign clan affairs and how the village treated me," Naruto replied while Ryu frowned. "Do you hold any grudges against that place?" he asks while Naruto snorts and places his towel on his shoulders. "I could care less about that place right now. Konoha is not my home anymore. The Hayabusa village is. I have friends and family here, and I wouldn't give them up for anything," he stated. "Well, excepted one." "You mean," Ryu is about to say about of what Naruto was referred to, seeing him nod, saddened, before his eyebrow rose. "Yeah, wish I can brought her with me and her parents, before they almost getting involved," Naruto explained. "And if I was pulling mind tricks on anyone. That what surprises me, is that they thought you were the Kyuubi's reincarnation. Talk about idiotic." Ryu comment and Naruto scoffs. "Please Ryu, even an idiot can tell that I'm not her. For one thing, I don't have fox ears or a tail sprouting from my ass, and I'm not the size of a mountain," he stated while Kurumi was in his mindscape giggling at what he said. Ryu chuckles at this and speaks up. "Let's head back for lunch, Naruto. I'm starting to get hungry." While the blonde nods. "Me too. I hope Ain-chan made fried salmon and spring rolls again." Naruto said along with guests and re-rolls his eyes at his best friend and they head off to the Uzumaki compound. Kanahigaku no Sato. Hiruzen Sarutobi was not having a good day. Then again he hasn't had one since Naruto was taken back to his home. When word got out of Naruto's departure from Konoha, the civilians partied because the demon brat was gone. After that, the civilian and elder council demanded that Hunter Nin be sent out to find and kill the boy and the people that took him, minus one certain blonde hair with a single bang which falls down into her face did care for the boy for saving her daughter. She was frowned for she is not one of them. But Hiruzen refused to because Naruto wasn't a ninja, but a civilian, so he could have left without his approval. But when that was over, Hiruzen announced to the village that the boy they treated like garbage and beat for their petty vengeance was the son of the Yondaime, and the last Namikaze. Most of the ninja and civilians were shocked at this, but the ones who held their grudge refused to believe it. The council wanted Hiruzen to send Anbu after the boy and have him return to revive the clan, but once again the man refused to let this happen, infuriating them. Making the single blonde women smirked for those fools made their mistakes. Since she was friend of a certain red hair woman. Until the rest of the council tell her about, so they knew she wasn't interested. That however wasn't the main problem. An ambassador from the Hayabusa village came to Konoha a few years ago stating that the daimyo and the ryukage are tripling the price for economic goods and technology that went to Fire Country and also cut off the trade for high-ranking missions. The civilian council, -1, wanted to know why, and the ambassador only said that you angered the Red Dragon, which caused the elders and shinobi council to pale because they knew who he was referring to. After that, he got a letter from the Fire Daimyo, and when he read it, the man was scared for his life. It was due to the fact that the Ryukage is resummoning the ninja he hired as bodyguards back to the Hayabusa village from orders of the Dragon Daimyo, who sent him a letter stating Konoha's charges on the heir of the Uzumaki Namikaze and wanting to have a private summit with him, the Kage, and their advisors, so that they can explain their actions. Hiruzen let out a tiring sigh knowing that Konoha was gonna pay big time for their actions. He was inwardly praying that the Hayabusa village doesn't cut off all ties with them and declare war, because even with their military force back up, they wouldn't stand a chance against the Dragon Nin. Sooner or later, this village will become a shadow of its former self and glory. Not only is their technology more advanced, but their military strength is on par with 3 of the 5 major nations. Kushina was no pushover either. Just like Minato, she had a flea on sight order 2 in the bingo book, and she's the last person you ever want to face in the battlefield. A pissed-off Kushina was one thing, but the wrath of an angry mother is another. I'm too old for this shit, he muttered, and that was when the door opened and Koharu, Hamura, and Danzo walked in with frowns on their faces. Sarutobi frowns and looks up at the 3 who have been nothing but trouble since Naruto left, especially Danzo, who wanted Naruto to be a weapon. What do you 3 want? Hiruzen asked as they sat down. We came to talk to you about the summit. Do you intend on having Kushina return the last Namikaze to the village where he belongs? Danzo asked, only to get glared at by Sarutobi. And have Kushina or the Fire Daimyo raise the village to the ground? Are you trying to destroy us, Danzo? I will do no such thing, he replied, only for Danzo's frown to deepen. There must be some way for us to turn this situation over, Hamura stated, only for Hiruzen to rub his temples. There isn't, you fool. Kushina and the Dragon Daimyo have more evidence on us than we do of them. The Fire Daimyo is not happy with us right now, and it is because of our actions that he has lost half of his bodyguards, he stated, only for Danzo to scoff. And what is wrong with our ninja taking their spots as his bodyguards? Danzo asks. Hiruzen looks at him like he's stupid. Danzo, the Dragon Nin and the Hayabusa village have been around longer than any other has, and they have been allies with the former daimyo of our country. Not to mention their military power is equal to that of 3 of the 5 major elemental countries. Do you honestly think we can take on a village that powerful? We may be the strongest village in the elementals, but they are the strongest non-elemental village, he stated, and Danzo just stays silent and looks at the ground. We can't afford to go to war with them. We lost the Uchiha military police force 3 years ago. That alone has crippled our forces. The daimyo will cut our military and economic funding, if not, he will cut ties with us, making us a target for other villages like IWA, Koharu stated, but was also cursing inwardly. She never liked Kushina or her ways of ruling a village, thinking that she was a novice trying to fill the shoes of a master when it came to leading. We only have ourselves to blame for not following Minato's dying wish. If we had, we wouldn't be in this situation right now, would we? Hiruzen asked with statement as the 3 look away from him, not wanting to admit that he was right. Hiruzen looks up at the clock on the wall and gets up, putting his hat on. The summit is in Tetsu no Kuni, Iron Country. I'm leaving the Inoshikacho trio in charge until we return, but I'm going to say this one time and one time only. Keep your mouth shut and speak when I tell you to, he said in a tone that stated he was serious, which caused them cringe at his gaze. Hayabusa village. Kushina, along with her 3 advisors Nishiki, Aizen, Kyra and 8 ANBU were at the entrance of the Hayabusa village with a carriage waiting for them. She was wearing her kaiga hat and robes, and strapped to her back was a nodachi. Standing before her was Joe, who was wearing his shinobi uniform. "I'm leaving you in charge while I'm gone, Joe. Naruto, Ain, and Suki will be staying with you and your family until I return," she said, getting a nod from the man. "Hi. Good luck and be safe, Kushina," he says, and she smiles. "I will, trust me. When I say, I'm gonna give the old monkey and those buzzards hell," she declared, while her advisors chuckle while entering the carriage. Joe chuckles as she enters the carriage, and the ANBU flank it. The driver of the carriage motions the horse to move, and it does. As Joe watches as the carriage disappears from his view, and then walks off with the 2 ANBU that were flanking him to the Dragon Tower. Naruto and Ryu were now fully dressed in their training GI and were now heading to the Uzumaki compound to eat lunch. After they removed their sandals, Naruto opened the slide door, and they entered the compound, only for the scent of fried salmon and spring rolls to hit their noses. Naruto walks in the dining room, only to see Ain and Suki setting the table. Ain turned her head to see Naruto and Ryu entering. "Hey Naruto-kun, Ryu-san." Ain greet while the two smile back. "Hey Ain-chan, Namuto." Naruto replied as they sat down and started to eat their lunch. After they finished eating lunch, Naruto, Ain and Suki went to get their gear packed and headed over to the Hayabusa compound. 2 days later. After taking a boat to the Elemental Nation, Kushina, her advisors, and the Dragon ANBU were walking through the forest heading for Tetsu no Kuni, Land of Iron, until one of the ANBU spoke up. "Ryukage-sama." The one with the blue dragon mask said, and Kushina nods. "I know. All of you step aside. I'll deal with them personally," she replied with order and tilts her hat down. The ANBU and advisors stepped to the side, and that was when 10 nin wearing cloaks and blank masks that had the kanji na on it leaped out of the trees with their ninjados drawn, and descending towards Kushina with the intent to kill her. They were rude ANBU. Kushina lifts her arm up and taps the seal that was on it. It glowed blue for a while, and then in a puff of smoke a silver-bladed katana with a deep red hilt, black diamond patterns, and a black guard appeared in her right hand. She then channels her wind chakra into her blade, and with great speed and precision, she performs a series of slashes, releasing small crescent-shaped wind blades at the root ninja, who barely have any time to evade it, and are all struck by the attack. Blood spurts from their injuries, and some lose their limbs or are killed instantly. The ones that survive crash to the ground, screaming out in pain and clutching either their wounds or their lost limbs. She walks over to one of them and turns her blade into a stabbing position, and runs it through his skull, killing him instantly. She removes the blade from the skull and swipes the blood and brain matter off with a flick of her wrist. That was when a barrage of kunai and daggers headed straight for her. Kushina grabbed one of the fallen bodies by the collar and used it as a shield to take the attack. That was when her eyes grew cold and glared at the now charging root members. "Fools," she said with a bad mood as she dropped the body. A few minutes later, the bloody and dismembered bodies of the root ANBU were scattered across the open field, and Kushina was wiping the blood of her blade, the Aka Erasure, Red Storm, with the clothes until the blade was clean. Her advisors walked forward and looked at the scene. "That was an interesting display of carnage, Kushina," Aizen stated while Kushina leaned over and ripped the mask off one of the root's heads. She then glared at the mask with and crushed it with her bare hand. "That fucking warhawk," she snarled out and looked at the ANBU who were preparing to burn the bodies. "Don't burn them. Seal them up in a scroll," she ordered, and the men nodded. "We're gonna return them to their rightful owner." As they started to seal the bodies away. Tetsu no Kuni. Kushina and her group have made it to Tetsu no Kuni, a snow-covered country with a large range of mountains and 3 large mountain tops that were called Sanro, 3 wolves, due to their appearance being similar to a 3-headed wolf. Kushina and the advisors were wearing cloaks with the ANBU flanking them. They managed to make it to the compound in Tetsu, and they saw 3 men garbed in samurai robes, scarves, and katanas strapped to their sides standing at the door. The one on the right is a bald man with a scar over his right eye and a dragon tattoo above his other eye. The other one is a balding man with thick eyebrows and a scar on the right side of his head. The one in the middle had a long black beard and mustache, long black hair, and wore some type of headgear that was wrapped in clothing. They were Mifune, Okasuke, and Yurakaku. They all walked up and bowed at the general of the samurai army, as does he. "I welcome you and the others to Tetsu no Kuni, Ryukage-sama. The Dragon Daimyo and Fire Daimyo are inside waiting room. The only ones who haven't appeared are the Hokage and his advisors." He greets/informed, and she nods. "Also, try not to start a conflict, Ryukage. I want this meeting to go without confrontation on either side," he stated. Kushina nods and walks into the waiting room with her advisors and men and sees Hiroshima Genryosai, the Fire Lord, along with his samurai, and Seijiro Hiko. Hiroshima also had the build of a warrior and had a scar on the left side of his face. He wore what looked like a red battle kimono with samurai armor and a sword strapped to the left side of his belt. When they met in the middle, the ruler of Fire Country approached them and bowed, and they did the same. Kushina-san, Seijiro-san. It's been a while since we met. Hiroshima greets and Seijiro nods. Indeed, it has been a while. Unfortunately, I'm not glad we have to meet like this due to the issues our villages are having with each other. Seijiro stated while Hiroshima frowns and nods at this. Yes, I too not happy with the situation, but I am sure we can solve this problem, and I do believe that my village and the current leader of the village are responsible for all of this, and trust me when I say when this meeting is over, I will be having a chat with that man and deal with his council, Hiroshima stated. That was when Hiruzen, his advisors, and his ANBU bodyguards walked in. Kushina looked over at them, and her eyes went from kind to cold and emotionless. Sarutobi saw the look in her eyes and couldn't help but shiver inwardly. Danzo was cursing inwardly because he sent his route to try and slow her down or at least kill one of her advisors. Seijiro just greeted them with a nod and Kushina walked away from them. Hiroshima gave Sarutobi a look that meant he was gonna deal with him and Konoha after this. Mifune stated that he would evaluate the meeting until said leaders have made their final decisions. The Kages and their advisors were sitting on opposite sides along with the leaders of their country. The ANBU and samurai were hidden in the shadows and watching out for intruder or if their leaders got into a situation with each other. Kushina and Hiruzen set their kage hats down on the table. Mifune sat down in the far end of the table and spoke. Now that everyone is present for this private summit, we can begin discussing the issues that are causing conflict between the leaders and their respective country, Mifune states. That was when Seijiro Hiko spoke up. If I may, Mifune-san, I'd like one of Kushina's advisors to state the charges she has placed over Konohagakure, the man said, and Mifune nods. Very well. The samurai general replied and looks over at Aizen, who was Kushina's head advisor. Councilman Aizen, would you read the charges? Mifune asks and gets a nod from the man, who reaches into his robe and pulls out a scroll, unravels it, and starts to read it. The Godame Ryukage of the Hayabusa village, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, and the daimyo of Ryu no Kuni Seijiro Hiko 13th. Find the Sandame Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Konohagakure no Sato guilty for performing these actions. Lying to a foreign leader of the death of one of her children who happens to be the heir of two clans, keeping the heir in a hostile environment, and denying the heir of his birthright. Aizen stated while Kushina, who had her hands under the table, was clenching her fists in fury while her eyes remained cold. Mifune then looks over at the dragon daimyo and asked, Do you agree with the charges that were stated, Seijiro-sama? With the man nod his head. Yes, I do. The daimyo stated, making the elders frown and Hiruzen to look at the table with shame. Does the Hokage agree with the charges placed against him? Mifune asked in court, and the old man nods. Yes, I do, he said, making his teammates and Danzo look at him in shock. Hokage-sama, you can't be, Sari Hamura stated, only for the professor to glare at him, which caused him to shut up. Mifune then looks over at Hiroshima, who had his eyes closed. What is your opinion on this, Hiroshima-sama? Mifune asked the man, who opens his deep brown eyes and speaks. I would like to hear Konoha's side and let the leader of the village explain his actions against an allied nation, Hiroshima says as he looks at Hiruzen, who lets out a sigh and looks up at them. Daimyo-sama, I honestly thought I was following the wishes of my successor, before he sealed the fox away into his son. I denied him of his heritage, because of IWA hating the man for what he did during the war. I made a law that stated the younger generation wouldn't know of Naruto's condition, and warned the older generation who hated the fox that it was an S-class secret punishable by death. He explained his reason, but Kushina scoffed. Looks to me that it's how that turned out, Sandame-sama. But that's not what I'm pissed off about. Tell your daimyo why you lied to me about my son's death, she said in a cold tone that made the man cringe. Kushina, I'm Sarutobi, started to say until she growled. That's Ryukage-sama to you, you old monkey, now answer my question, she demanded. I did it because he was the last male Namikaze, and Minato would have wanted him to stay in the village where he can revive his clan. He said, only to instantly regret it when she smashed her fist into the table, causing the ANBU and samurai appear ready to defend their leaders until the daimyos waved them off and they disappeared into the shadows. Kushina's eyes were now a golden yellow color with a tint of red around her slitted pupils. You son of a bitch! How dare you say Minato would have wanted Naruto to stay in the village to revive his clan? That's what you bastards want, she yelled while a bead of sweat appeared on Hiruzen's brow, and that was when Koharu spoke up. Please calm down, Ryukage, Koharu started to say until Kushina aimed her glare at the old woman. I wasn't taking to you, ya ancient relic. So shut the fuck up, the redhead yelled, making Koharu shut up, and Kushina looked back at Hiruzen. Give me one reason. Give me one fucking reason why I shouldn't kill you for right here, and now, and then have my army head to Konoha and reduce it to ashes, you traitorous dogs, She snarled out as she removed her fist, leaving an imprint in the desk while Hiruzen, Koharu, and Hamura had a look of horror and fear on their faces. After all my village has done for you fools, when the Shodame Hokage first created that village, you go and stab me, my village, and my country in the back just because my Sochi was the last Namikaze? Have you forgotten that he is also my son and the heir to the Uzumaki clan? She roared out while the daimyos and Mifune just watched the event, as did Kushina's advisors, who almost felt sorry for the old man. Almost was the keyword. Kushina, I was only doing what was best for the boy, and for you, and I couldn't allow you to take the container of the most powerful Biju out of Konoha. He would have been a danger to you and your village. Sarutobi tried to explain, but this only pissed Kushina further. The killer intent she was releasing frightened even Mifune and the hidden ANBU and samurai. Whoever said hell hath no fury like a woman scorned wasn't lying. Nishiki and Aizen thought. And that justifies your actions in separation a mother from her child? I can't believe I'm hearing this from you of all people, Sarutobi. What was best for my son? He told me how you would just sit in your seat and let those idiots beat him near an inch of his life. He also had to eat food out of garbage cans, because he was always kicked out of restaurants and grocery stores. Garbage cans, you fucking fool! How could you do this to me and Minato? Kushina yelled out while the man looked away in shame. Hiroshima's eyes widened in shock and then glared at the four. How dare you do this to me, my family, my country, and my children? I consider your actions inexcusable, as do the ninja and civilians of my village. The dragon daimyo also agrees with me, and we demand retribution from your village. Refusal to do so will be the complete termination of our treaty and an all-out war with us. She finished while Hiruzen paled at the threat, as did the elders. Retribution it is, Ryukage-sama. What is it that you want from us? Hiruzen asked, knowing that if he refused, the fire daimyo will either erase the village with his samurai army or cut his ties with him, and watch as Konoha is razed to the ground by Kushina and her forces. 350 million ryo for financial retribution to the Uzumaki and Namikaze clan, the execution of those who assaulted my son, as well as 30 A and S rank jutsus from the Kage vault, she said, and was inwardly smirking at their shocked looks. I object, Danzo yelled out. Kushina, the demands are, Hiruzen started to say. Are what? Too much? It's either that or the liquidation of Konohagakure, Sandaime-sama. Kushina replied. We can't pay that amount of money, and the execution of the ones who attacked the boy are too numerous. We could end up crippling our village, Hamura stated while Kushina just shrugs and looks at her nails. Not my problem, advisor. Koharu then speaks out. You're being unreasonable, Ryukage, she yelled, getting a smirk from Kushina. Payback's a bitch, isn't it, elder? She said, making the woman sneer at her. This is blasphemy. Daimyo-sama, don't you think she's being unreasonable? Danzo asks, only for the man to look at him. Actually, Danzo, I don't, Hiroshima said, making the four pale. The ruler of Hai no Kuni was agreeing with the foreigner's side. But sir, Danzo started to say, until the man silenced him with a hand gesture. Kushina-sama, I agree with the financial retribution as well as the jutsu list from the Kage vault. But I wish you would reconsider having 85% the village executed, Hiroshima says, and Kushina looks at the man for a while and lets out a sigh. Fine. But in return, I demand 10A and 10S ranked mission scrolls from them, Kushina said, and the elders opened and closed their mouths with no words coming out. Very well, Hiroshima states and looks at Seijiro, who nods back at the agreement. Sarutobi sadly nods back while the elders look at the table with frowns on their face. Oh, and Danzo, Kushina called the Warhawk while the man looks up only to see a scroll tossed at him, and he catches it. He opens it, and a pile of corpses with blank masks with the kanji on them appeared in a bloody pile, making the man's single eye widened, as did the others. The next time you want to send your drones to kill me, make sure they're at least Kage level. Oh, and I want double of what I requested. You can thank Danzo here for that, she said with an evil grin on her face, making them as white as a sheet of paper, and after that, Hiruzen glared hard at the now scared man, releasing murderous intent on him, and then Hiroshima spoke up. I will personally make sure that the retributions are accounted for, Kushina-sama, Seijiro-sama, he said, getting a nod from them. As they started to file out, after the summit is adjourned, Sarutobi looked at Kushina. Kushina cut him off. Save it, old man. I don't want to hear your piss-poor apologies. You're a disgrace to your village, your clan, to your predecessors, and my husband. I'm gonna say this one time and one time only. Keep your counsel on a leash, because you've got one time to piss me off, one time to try anything against my children, and one time make me regret sparing your village, and not even the daimyo will stop me from sending my entire force to your village and wiping it off the face of the earth. She then got in his face and gave him a look that would make the Shinigami proud. I will make you watch as I destroy everything you and the former Kages worked hard to create, and then I will kill you and mount your head on my wall. she said in a cold and dark tone while her eyes flashed golden yellow for a few seconds while the Sandaime flinched and gulped. A day later. After the eventful meeting, Seijiro went back to the capital of Ryu no Kuni and Kushina returned to the village. The fire daimyo had his messenger send the money as well as the jutsu and mission scrolls she wanted for retribution. The civilian council, -1, were not happy about it and wanted the man to reconsider it, but Hiroshima ignored their protests, making a single councilwoman happy for her friend pull off. She refused to pay for what they deserved, before the fire daimyo called her and gave a letter that turns out, it was a secret message for Kushina. She appreciates him and Kushina. Right now, Kushina had decided to take a couple of days off to spend with her children, due to all the stress Konoha has put her through. Kushina, her kids, Ain, Ryu, Kasumi, Momiji, Kureha, and Shizure were at the lake relaxing. Kushina and Shizure were lying on their backs on towels, sunbathing in their bathing suits while the kids were in the lake splashing and laughing. Shizure looks over at Kushina and speaks up. Kushina, have you considered getting remarried or dating again? She asked, getting a raised eyebrow from the woman. Since when did my personal life interest you, Shizure? She asked, only for the woman to sigh. Come on, Kushina, I know Minato was your first love and you miss him, but you should move on and find someone else. Minato would want you as well as your children to be happy, she stated, and Kushina sighed. I don't know if I can, Shizure. I can't have any more children, plus I'm in my early 30s. There aren't a lot single 30-year-old males in the village, she stated. Shizure frowns, but then a grin appears on her face. What about Rikimaru? She asked, and a tint of pink and make it red appears on the redhead's face. Since few friends called Erasure as a nickname. His real name is Erasure Rikimaru Kazama, the Sotecho of the ANBU. What about him? Kushina asked, only for Shizure's grin to widen. Oh, come now, Kushina, you should ask him out on a date, she insisted, making the woman sit up and look at her. Shizure, she exclaimed while Shizure blinks. Just ask the man out on a date, Shina. You need a man in your life. Naruto and Suki likes him. Just give it a shot, she says while Kushina blushes and looks at the sky for a while and then sighs. Fine. I'll ask him tomorrow, since he's off that day, she replied, and Shizure grins at her best friend. Just don't blow it or you'll never hear the end of it from me, she said, and Kushina's brow twitches. After that, everyone left the lake. Kushina, Naruto, and Suki were heading towards the compound until they heard a deep masculine voice. Yo, Kushina! The three turned around to see a man with long white spiky hair that was tied into a ponytail, and on his head was a headband with the kanji for oil on it. He wore a green ninja gi with a mesh shirt underneath it as well as a red vest and Geta sandals. He was Jiraiya, the Gamma Sannin and one of the Sannin. Kushina saw Jiraiya and blinked in confusion. Jiraiya? What are you doing here? Did Sarutobi send you here? She asked as she narrowed her eyes at the man who blinked in confusion. No, he didn't. He said, looks at Naruto, and his eyes widen as he looks at Naruto. Kushina is that he started to say, only for Kushina to nod. Yes, Jiraiya, this is your so-called dead godson, she answered, and the man's eyes widen in shock and then they narrow. I'm gonna beat the shit out of Sarutobi, he said, scowl, and Kushina blinks at the man. So he lied to you too, right? She asked, only for the man to nod, and Naruto looks up at his mother. Hey Ka-san, who's he? He asked. That signals Jiraiya was about to do his introduction, when Kushina interrupted him. He's your Kyofu, godfather, Sochi. Jiraiya, the Gamma Sannin. He's also the man who trained your father, she answered, only for Jiraiya's head and shoulders to slump. Kushina, you interrupted my cool entrance, he whines while Suki giggles and Naruto's sweat dropped and looked back at his mother. Are you sure he trained too, San? He looks like a goofball and a pervert, Naruto stated, only for Jiraiya to face fault and get up to glare at the boy. I am not a pervert. I'm a super pervert, he proclaimed as he puffed his chest up. Naruto's brow twitches at his proclamation. That not something you should be proud of and state, Erosenin, Naruto replied, and the man's face faulted once again. Kushina bit her lip, tried to stop from laughing while Jiraiya sat up and glared at boy once more. Don't call me that, Jiraiya yelled while Kushina laughed, as did with Suki. Just like his father. He called me that too, and now his brat is calling me that. He ranted until he calmed down and spoke up. Anyways, Kushina, the reason I came here is because I would like to train the kids for a couple of years and teach them some of my personal jutsu, Jiraiya replied, what Kushina looks at him for a while and then speaks up. I don't mind. Besides, you have a lot of catching up to do with your godson, but if you turn him into a pervert, I will make Tsunade's beatings look like an act of mercy once I'm through with you, the redhead Kage said in a sweet, but dangerous tone, making the man sweat bullets. I won't, Jiraiya said nervously and mentally, add yet at the same time. Naruto looks up at his mother again to speak. Is he really that strong, Ka-san? He asked, and Jiraiya gives the boy a look of shock and hurt. Gaki, you mock my skills as a ninja? I'll have you know that I am without a doubt one of the strongest ninja in the world. Heck, I could give your mom here a run for her money, Jiraiya said with a grin on his face, making Naruto's and Suki's eyes widen. Ka-san, can he really take you on? Suki asked, since her mother is the strongest ninja in the village, and Kushina nods while rubbing the back of her head. Yes, he can, Suki-chan. I remember all those spars we had with him and your two-san. He actually knocked me out in our first fight, she said while Jiraiya smirked at her. Sure did. You were getting arrogant and cocky, so I had to knock you down a couple of pegs. The Toad Sage replied. Naruto, however, was scratching the back of his head. Why is it that some of the most powerful people in the world are weird, Suki? He asks his twin, who shrugs while the two adults laugh at them. 4 years later. At an empty restaurant near the borders of Kaminari no Kuni, Lightning Country, a manager named Taro was currently being harassed by a group of yakuzas who had bats, clubs, and a few had guns with them, any series of MP5, K.S., Uzis, M4S, AKs, M9S, Glocks, Desert Eagles, and Sig Saucers, etc., installing dot sights or ACOG scopes or laser sights. And that's right, mates, there are guns in this story, since I combined the Naruto world with the Ninja Gaiden world by using the Call of Duty style with customized arsenals and badass StarCraft weapon selectable style. So I will be had Sonya select those guns plus combat knives and ninja blade style too, and advise you guys not flame me. Cause this is fanfiction, fans. Taro was currently gulping as one yakuza named Maki, who was wearing an all-black suit with brown spiky hair, a tattoo on the right side of his face, and holding a bat, walks towards the man with the bat resting on his shoulders. Look. I already said I didn't need protection from your boss, so please leave. He begged, only for the leader to snort, and then kicked a table over with his foot, making the man whimper. Kojiro-sama didn't ask if you wanted protection. You're getting it, and will pay us for it or else, he said as he points his bat at the manager's face. I don't want your protection, and I'm not paying you for it, Taro yelled, and Maki snatched the man up by the collar and slammed him into the wall, getting a cry of pain from the man. He drops his bat on the ground and pulls a switchblade out of his back pocket and points the sharp steel at his neck. Either you accept his offer or you're gonna have a bigger smile on your, he started to say until his body jerked, and he looked down to see a knife in his torso and blood drips from his gut. He drops the switchblade and Taro pulls the blade out and kicks the man in the face, sending him flying into a table, which shatters. The others had shocked looks on their faces while Taro flicks the blood off the knife. Aniki! A yakuza grunt cried out and aimed his 9mm pistol, M9, at the manager. You son of a, he said until he was hit by a barrage of shuriken that flew from the ceiling. 3 hit him in the chest and torso, 2 hit him in the back, and 1 hits him in the back of his skull. The man dies before he hits the ground, and the other gangsters freak out at this. What the hell is going on? Another one said, only for his head to be looped off by a flash of silver and blood squirts from his neck and sprays everywhere. Taro had a smirk on his face and pulled 4 throwing knives out of his sleeves and throws them at the rest, who had barely any time to react. 3 were killed instantly. The others cried out in pain. A redhead appears between 2 of them and plunges her twin kodachis into their spines, killing them instantly. She was wearing a whole body jumpsuit that was red and black with a dragon on the back and had arm guards on her arms and fingerless gloves. She also wore a black face mask that covered half of her face. The front part of her suit was slightly unzipped, revealing a mesh shirt. A ninja leaps wearing an all-whole-body black outfit with a headpiece that resembled a dragon's crest, falls from the ceiling with his blade, Shinken no Ryuken, Divine Dragon Sword, drawn, and performs a diagonal slash down on one yakuza and vivisects another, separating his upper and lower body. After the small massacre, Taro turns into a puff of smoke, and when it clears, a 14-year-old male with wild blonde spiky hair, Yandame's hairstyle, and wore a deep blue and silver bodysuit with a face mask, arm guards, and fingerless gloves. Strapped to his back and belt were Ryuken and Shuriken no Ryujin, dragon sword and fawn of the dragon god, his family's heirlooms. Well, that was fun, Naruto said, admitted, and walks over to a bleeding Maki who was trying to stop the bleeding from his torso with his hands, and Naruto grabs the man by his hair and lifts him up to his eye level. Look, you're gonna die soon, so why not tell us where your boss is? He asked, only for the man to be silent until Naruto punched him in his bleeding torso and blood squirts out of it. Maki screams out on pain as Naruto dug his fist into the injury. You're only prolonging your death, you fool. Tell me where he's hiding and I'll make you death quick and painless, he says as he applies more pressure. Maki had enough and spilled his guts and answered, Okay, I'll talk. Kojiro-sama is staying at a 5-star hotel called the White Cloud in the upper district, where he's being guarded by his personal guards and some ninja with black spider symbols he hired. He's staying in the penthouse on the right side of the building. Thank you? Naruto appreciated, and the blade came out on his wrist and slits the man's throat in a quick manner, killing him instantly. You know, you always likes to play around with Assassin's Creed, right? Ryu comment. Since Naruto started to like to play that game Assassin's Creed, since it's a new game this year past, since the blacksmiths insisted to build the same weapons as the game. And, it's now the futures comes to the past and there's modern computers. I know. Naruto replied as his hidden blade slides back. Ryu pulls out a scroll and seals the bodies in it. I'm pretty sure some of these guys have bounties on their heads, especially the one with the tattoo. He states. Suki then sheathes her kodachis and walks over to Naruto and Ryu. The personal bodyguards should be no problem, but the black spider nin will be a problem. We need to get rid of them first. Suki stated about the arch-enemies of the dragon nin. Naruto nods in agreement. Yes, we'll deal with them first before we go for his personal guards. Once we deal with the guards, we'll deal with Kojira. He said, getting a nod from them and the Shunshin out of the restaurant. White Cloud Penthouse. Inside the penthouse was a bulky man wearing a purple and black suit. He had black hair that was slicked back with a few gray strands in it and a scare on the left side of his head. His name is Kojira Sasuke, a crime boss of the Yakuza gang. He was also a former cutthroat and hitman of the group until he had an incident when facing an assassin that was after the bounty on his head. He was now sitting in a chair, drinking red wine out of wine glass. He was waiting for Maki and his group to come back with the protection money. If not, that the manager's head. Outside his room were his guards who were wearing black suits with white dress shirts and black ties armed with SMGs with less or few reflex and laser sights, and foregrips. The others were patrolling the upper room. On the roof were 8 black spider nin equipped with katanas, wakizashis, axes, and gauntlets. They were watching the rooftops and looking out for any ninja. Meanwhile, 3 figures were watching. Suki was crouching on a telephone pole with a pair of goggles and zoomed in on the rooftop to see 8 spider nin patrolling the rooftop of the penthouse. She then removes goggles from her face and leaps off of the pole and lands into an alley. Ryu appears from out of the shadows and approaches her. We got a total of 12 guards patrolling the upper room where the penthouse is. Judging by their outfits, they're probably equipped with firearms. Ryu informed before asked. What about the rooftop? There are a total of 8 spider nin patrolling the roof. Suki states and Ryu nodded. A beeping sound comes from his comm link, and he clicks the headpiece that was in his ear. Yeah, there's a total of 8. Naruto, should I handle them? Ryu asked. Okay. I'll handle the spider nin, and you and Suki will handle the guards. Okay, I'm about to heading there. He replied and clicks the earpiece to turn it off. Meet Naruto at the 10th window on the northeastern side of the building and he'll meet you there, Ryu said. Suki nods and shins out of the alley and Ryu merges with the shadows and disappears. White Cloud Penthouse Rooftop. A black spider nin just got finished sharpening his sword and was about to rejoin the patrol group until he was hit in the skull by 3 shuriken. His body jerks back and he hits the ground with a thud. Ryu appears in a crouching position and pulls out an exploding tag, placing it on the man's body. He then grabs the spider nin and flings him over an air duct. The body lands in between a small group of spider nin who jump up with their weapons ready. They approach the body carefully and see a tag on the dead spider nin's body. Ryu was behind the air duct and has his hand in a ram seal. Kai. He mutters and channels chakra into the tag, which glows yellow then explodes into fire. 3 of them end up being set ablaze and were screaming and rolling around the ground. The other 2 had 3rd-degree burns on their arms and legs, trying to put the flames out. A black blur was heading towards them, and when one of them looked up, he was decapitated by a silver flash. It was Ryu with Shinken no Ryuken drawn. The headless spider nin falls to the ground and the others rush at the dragon nin. Ryu pulls out 5 shuriken and flings them at the 2. One deflects them with his gauntlets and swipes at Ryu's head. Ryu sidesteps the attack and the other spider nin does a horizontal slash with his wakizashi. Ryu blocks it with his blade and roundhouse kicks the nin on the back of his head, making him stumble backwards. Ryu then spins and cuts off the man's right leg and he hits the ground clutching his missing limb in pain as it bled out while the young dragon stabs him in the head, killing him instantly. 4 more nin appear around him with their weapons ready to kill. Ryu looks around and then twirls his blade twice and gets into a kenjutsu stance. The 10th floor. The bodyguards heard the explosion and run around in different directions looking for the source. Naruto appears in the air with Ryuken drawn in hands. He rushes at 2 of them who are firing their 9mm and .45 ACP guns at Naruto who was deflecting the bullets with his blade. The guns went blank and started to click, shocking the bodyguards who tried to reload the clips. Naruto leaps into the air and performs a spin kick on the one from the right. The impact sends him flying into a wall and his skull hits it, leaving an imprint and falls to the ground unconscious. When Naruto lands, the other one tosses his gun to the side and pulls out an electric tonfa. He charges at Naruto who sheathes his sword and gets into a CQC stance. The guard charges at Naruto and takes a swing at his midsection. Naruto sidesteps and grabs the man's arm. He twists it hard, hearing the snapping of bone. The guard cries out in pain as he drops the electric tonfa only for Naruto to grab it and strikes him in the torso with it, making the guard keel over from the electric currents running through his body. Naruto then lets him go and strikes him in the back of the neck and he topples over. He tosses it aside and sees his sister kick one guard into a wall, and then leaps over one that tried to strike her from behind. She grabs his head, flips over and pushes her body forward, flinging the man into another group of guards. She then throws a kunai, which had an exploding tag on it, at the ceiling. When it hits, she performs a ram seal saying kai and it explodes. Large chunks of debris fall and the guards scream as they are crushed under the rubble. Inside the penthouse, Kojiro had a gold-plated Desert Eagle Mark 19 in his hand and was heading for the elevator as he heard the sounds of guns firing, blades slicing into flesh, the sounds of screaming and explosions shaking the ground. He had a limp in his leg and was using his cane to help him move forward. He was now at the elevator and about to reach for the button until he heard a crashing sound and saw one of his guards come flying through the destroyed door and sliding across the floor and stops having a bloody, swollen, and broken face. Shit. Kojiro muttered and reaches for the button again only for a barrage of kunai and shuriken to come flying at him. He curses once again and barely avoids them. They destroy the panel as sparks buzz around the destroyed elevator panel. He aims his gun at the entrance and starts to fire at the smoky entrance. Little did he know that Naruto was already in the room on a metal beam with a Kusarigama in his hands, the one from Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. He twirls the end that had the metal spiked ball in it, and then he flings it at the man's hand that had the Desert Eagle in it, and knocks it out. "What the?" he exclaimed as the gun goes scattering across the room. He turns his head to see Naruto on the beam twirling the sickle end. Kojiro tries to run away, but when he does then he cries out in pain as the sickle is embedded into his spinal column. Blood spurted from his injury, and he fell down losing all feeling in his lower body. Naruto yanks the sickle out and grabs the handle, swiping the blood off of it, and seals it into a scroll. He then lands onto the floor and walks over to the man who was crawling on his belly with his hands trying to reach for his gun, but Naruto plants his foot on his back and he screams out as his spine snaps. Naruto pulls out his blade and places it in a stabbing position near the back of his head. "Any last words, Yakuza?" Naruto says in monotone while Kojiro snarls and clenches his fist. "Fuck you," was all he said. Squelch. The blade was embedded into his skull, killing him instantly. A puddle of blood started to form around the man's body and Naruto removes the tip out of his head and swiped the blood and brain matter away. That was when the body of a spider Nin came crashing through the ceiling and hits the ground hard, creating a small crater. Naruto looks up and sees Ryu leap from the hole in the ceiling and into the penthouse. He kicks the dead body away and walks towards the blonde dragon who was sheathing his sword. "Mission accomplished," Naruto said while Ryu lets out a sigh of relief. "Finally," a feminine voice exclaimed. Suki was walking into the room dragging the unconscious body of a Yakuza guard. "We managed to take care of all the Yakuza crime lords in Kaminari, Lightning. Not that it was tough or anything, but these guys were pushovers," she said while Ryu nods. "You would think they would at least hired some missing Nin to protect them or at least more black spider ninja," Ryu said in a bored tone while Naruto chuckles. "Well, we can finally go home after hunting crime lords for 6 months," he comment, and they both nod. "Come on. We need to get out of her because I am not paying for the damage," he says, and the three shun Shin away. Naruto, Ryu, and Suki were used to this kind of thing. They got used to killing and fighting and they started when they were 12 years old. They have killed crime lords, corrupt politics, gangsters, pirates, and even stopped the smuggling of drugs and illegal weapons. After collecting the bounty on the Yakuza crime lord, they headed back to the Hayabusa village via dragon summon. Naruto, Ryu, and Suki each signed the summoning contract for the legendary dragons since it was their birthright, and Naruto was given Ryuken and Shuriken no Ryujin when he turned 13 and Kushina gave Suki her blade, Aka Erasure. When the dragon landed near the compound, Ryu left to head to his family's compound. Naruto created a shadow clone and had it take the mission report to the Dragon Tower. After being greeted by the servants, Naruto and Suki went to their separate rooms. Naruto closed the door and removed his ninja outfit and gear, wearing a mesh shirt and boxers under it. He places his blades on the sword stand and then grabs a pair of shorts, boxers and a towel and heads to his private bathhouse. After taking his bath, he dries himself off and puts on his boxers and shorts while leaving his well-toned muscular body shirtless. He walks towards his bed, ready to lay down on it until he felt a pair of soft feminine arms wrap around his waist and felt a body press up against his back. A smile appears his face as Ain's hands travel across his chest and abs, and after doing that for a while she latches her hands around his waist and inhales the scent of his hair. "Hello Ainheim," he said while she giggles and kisses him on the cheek. "Hello Naruto-kun. I missed you." She said. They walk towards his bed. Ain removes her hands from his waist and Naruto turns around to see a smiling Ain. She was now 5 feet 3 inches and had a figure any girl would kill to have. She had clear violet hair that stopped to her shoulders and ruby red eyes. She is wearing a gray sleeveless shirt that hugged her body and showed off her curves and C-cupped breasts, and wore a pair of short purple shorts that showed off her flawless legs and hugged her hips. I missed you too, Tenchi, he says, getting a small blush from her, and she kisses him on the lips. They stop and Naruto goes and lays his back on his soft, comfy bed. Ain joins him but lays next to him and rests her head on his chest. He wraps his arms around her and pulls her closer to him. He then closes his eye while Ain smiles at this and does the same. Ever since Naruto saved her from the Red Tengu, Ain has become more open with Naruto. She even cried for him when he told her about his life in Konoha and that he was the container of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Kasumi, Momiji, and Kureha did the same when he told them, and it resulted in him being hugged to death by the crying girls. As he told them about, he had met a single girl before she took away from him by his mother. Since the girls told them her name, he'll told them the answer when the time came. So they gave him a hint by Cherry just as Naruto told them about his first friend. He'll told them when the time comes. After living with Naruto and his family for almost 6 years, Ain's feelings for Naruto went from a crush to actual love. At first she was afraid that he would reject her, but surprisingly, he stated that he had feelings for her too. Now Naruto earned her trust to give and answer the hint of the cherry. That made her surprised that it was a name, so Ain will keep the secret for time being. They then became a couple, which seemed to hurt Momiji and Kasumi since they also developed feelings for the blonde but wanted Ain to be happy since it wouldn't be fair to her since they had a lot in common. Surprisingly, Naruto got out of his denseness when it came to girls when he got older. Actually, Suki had to literally beat it out of Hit, as did Jiraiya, who stated that both he and his father were blockheads when it came to women. Kushina and Kurumi, Kyuubi, had never laughed so hard when they watched her daughter and Jiraiya beat some sense into his head. After Kushina told her son and Ryu about the CRA, he nearly had a heart attack, as did Jiraiya, due to the fact that his godson got to live every man's dream. They were skeptic at first but realized that it would help restore their clans, so they agreed to it. That and Kushina and Shizuru wanted lots of grandkids whom they can spoil. Naruto knew that Kasumi and Momiji had feelings for him, and when he told Ain about it, she said that she'd agree with letting Kasumi and Momiji join his clan and he would tell them about it. And includes her. Kushina told the girls about she had a friend in Konoha? About 2 or 3 at least. Since she can't risk herself for sending a letter to her friend since they had talked about they were in academy years ago in Konoha. So she sent one, secretly gave it to the fire daimyo to her friend, so that way to keep themselves touch until the time came. Of course she came up with this wild proposition. The girls were curious about. So Kushina replied that during the time she was 6 months pregnant with Naruto and Suki. She actually came up with the bizarre idea of wanting her daughter marry Naruto. Of course her friend laughed because Kushina thought her was going to give birth to a girl. That made surprise for the girls talking about Naruto's friend? They told Kushina that she had pink hair. That triggers Kushina to smile, for she know a person had a pink hair too. The girls questions that Kushina actually brought up the idea of the two of them marrying. Kushina was so persistent too. Kept telling her friend that her son and her daughter would make the most adorable and beautiful babies. That only made Naruto blushed about his mother did made a unofficial arranged marriage. He did told her that she did had a pink hair is true. Since Ain didn't mind. So Kushina told him she haven't sent a letter for a while after the twins were born. Since she can't risk it to send Anathet, so she'll keep in touch with her. The next morning, Naruto opened his cerulean blue eyes to see Ain sleeping on top of him with her head on his chest. He smiles at the sight, hearing her snore lightly with her hands on his chest. He brushes a strand of hair from her face and she stirs for a while. She opens her ruby red eyes and sees Naruto grinning at her. Morning, Tenchi. He greet and she smiles back. Morning, Naruto-kun. She replied and moves up to kiss him on the lips. Naruto sat up with Ain on his lap and deepens the kiss. Ain does the same and wraps her arms around his neck. Naruto had both of his hands on her hips and pulls he even closer, and Ain brushes her hands through his soft blonde hair. Naruto then moves his hand downward and slips it under her shirt and caresses her stomach, making her shiver slightly. Naruto manages to get his other hand under her shirt and lifts it up, revealing her well-toned torso, which she gained from training. Ain removes her lips from his and a sly smile appears on her face. Naruto, if you wanted me to remove my clothing, all you had to do was ask. She replied, only to giggle when he tickles her sides and stomach. Be careful what you wish for, Tenchi. I might do more than strip you of your clothes if you keep teasing me, he says, getting a blush from the girl. Naruto removes his hands from her hips, and she gets off his lap and pulls her shirt down. Should we get ready for our morning run? He asked, and she nods. Naruto went into his closet and pulled out a blue sleeveless shirt, gray pants, and a pair of blue and white running shoes, as he wore the same hidden blade bracer for precaution. Ayin went to her room to change and put on a purple tank top, gray jogging pants, and a pair of purple and white shoes. After that, they walk out of the compound and stretch for a while. Naruto pulls out an iPod and puts the headphones in his ears and starts playing Agony by Kotoko. Ayin pulls out hers as well and they start running around the quiet village. After running for 45 minutes, they stop near a park to relax. Naruto was drinking out of his water bottle when he noticed a redhead and a teenager making out on a bench. It was Ryu and Suki. Suki was sitting on his lap with her arms wrapped around his neck and Ryu had his wrapped around her waist. Ryu was wearing a black sleeveless shirt, black jogging pants, and white running shoes, and Suki was wearing a red tank top with red jogging pants and red and white running shoes. Naruto saw this and a grin appeared on his face. He looks over at Ayin, who was drinking water out of her bottle, and taped her on the shoulder. She turned her to see a grinning Naruto pointing in a different direction, and she turns her head in that direction, only to spit her water out of her mouth and her eyes as wide as dinner plates when she saw Suki and Ryu making out. Naruto then shunned shins behind the bench they were making out on and stood up. Ahem. He coughed out and the two froze and opened an eye to see Naruto smirking at them. You two, don't you realize that this is a park, right, and kids play here? He asked. Ryu and Suki jump off of the bench and looking away with their faces glowing red. Ayin appeared next to Naruto with her arms wrapped around his and was smiling at them. So this is what you two do early in the morning. What would your mother say if she saw this, Ryu-san? Ayin asked and Ryu glares at them while they grinned. Speaking of mothers, Ka-san didn't come home last night. Naruto said, think about that subject. Suki's eyes widen, but then grin appears on her face. I bet that she has stayed with Arashi-san, she replied while Naruto groaned. Figures. Why doesn't she just marry the guy, for crying out loud, instead of sneaking out of the compound when we're gone? He asked. Kushina has been seeing Arisha the past 4 years. Naruto was shocked that his mother was dating again, but she did like the man and decided to give him a chance. But he did threaten the Sotecho of the ANBU that if he broke her heart he'd break all 4 of his limbs, castrate him with a heated-up kunai, and throw him into the volcanic mouth of MT Fuji, causing the man to twitch at the threat. Suki snickers at this and wraps an arm around Ryu's. Well, at least they're not at the compound doing that, she emphasized while the blonde's eye twitches and he shudders at the thought of his mother doing that with Arisha. After finishing their morning run, eating breakfast at a restaurant, and going home to change, Naruto, Ryu, and Suki were summoned to the Dragon Tower by the Ryukage. Dragon Tower. Naruto, Ryu, and Suki were now in the tower where Kushina was glaring at the piles of paperwork she had and had a tick mark on her head. I swear if that woman comes in here with more paperwork, I'm gonna pull a Kyuubi, she roared in her mind while a chibi form of her burned the mountain of paperwork with a fire jutsu and then did a victory sign with her hands while grinning like a Cheshire cat. The 3 dragon Nin's sweat dropped at their Kage's expression, as did the ANBU hidden in the shadows. Naruto coughed, getting his mother's attention, and he speaks up. You wanted to see us, Ryukage-sama? Naruto asked, and she nodded. Yes. I got your report from the Kage Bunshin, Shadow Clone, you sent yesterday, and I want to congratulate you all for dealing with the Yakuza crime lords and reducing their activities in Kaminari no Kuni, Kushina stated. The Lightning Daimyo thanking you all for dealing with them and is sending the bounties on their heads to your accounts. With a small smile appeared on her face while they nod. Now, I know you just got back from the 6-month mission, but you and Team Tenchi have been requested for a joint mission from the Daimyo of Nami no Kuni, Land of Wave, she stated while Naruto blinks at this. What is the mission, Ryukage-sama? Naruto asked. Apparently the country's economy and trade has been dwindling for the last 3 years. As you know, Nami no Kuni is a port country and is very vital to the other villages for trading both imports and exports to other countries. A man by the name of Gato is the one responsible for this, she explained, getting wide eyes from them. Gato? The man who owns Gato's shipping company? What does he have to do with this? Suki asked about that man and his company. Kushina pulls out a file and places it on her desk. She opens it, revealing the picture of a short man wearing a black suit. While Gato does own a shipping company that deals with imports and exports, he is in no shape or form a good businessman, she states. According to our spy network, Gato also works in the criminal underworld and is responsible for transporting illegal items like drugs, weapons, and even slaves. He has worked with the Yakuza in sending them their items and not get caught. He's also responsible for the murders of a lot of important people in Wave and also known for selling women and young girls to whorehouses or his personal brothel, she replied as she said those words with venom and was twitching. Suki's brow twitched as did Naruto's and Ryu's. I want you and Team Tenchi to head to Nami no Kuni and find his hideout. Find as much evidence as you can on him, get access to his bank accounts, and when you get the chance, kill him, but be careful. He also hires bandits and Missinine to do his dirty work, and I'm positive he'll hire the Black Spider clan," she said, getting nods from them as they started to leave. "Now if only I knew how to get rid of all this damned paperwork. I have a lunch date, damn it," she said while anime tears fell from her face and the sweat drops on the hidden A and B's faces grew bigger. Naruto's head popped out the door, and I smiled. "Have you considered using Kage Bunshin Ka-sen?" Ero Sennin stated that the knowledge they gain after being disappeared is sent to the user, he said, and disappears. Kushina's eyes were the size of dinner plate, and her jaw was on the ground. "So that's how Minato got all that paperwork done. Minato, you blonde jerk, if I find a jutsu that brings the dead back to life, I'll kick your ass," she yelled furiously as her eyes glowed red and streams of fire shoot out of her nostrils and mouth, scaring her A and B, who were praying to Kami that she doesn't take it out on them. Naruto and Suki heard this and snickered at how their Ka-san reacted. "Pops better hope she doesn't find a bring back the dead jutsu, or he is so screwed," Naruto stated. While in heaven, Minato feel a shiver go up his spine, wondering who it was he was fearing right now. Chapter ended. Chapter 5, Wave, Fiends, and Hunters. Point 1. Story starts. Naruto, Ryu, and Suki were walking towards the entrance to the Hayabusa village. When they got there, they saw Team Tenchi, Ain, Kasumi, and Momiji. Ain was wearing a purple and silver whole-body jumpsuit with flower decorations along with several pieces of armor and a black garb over her head. Strapped to her sides were her Fuma Kodachi. Kasumi wore a blue and white kunoichi outfit with a wakizashi with a golden tassel strapped behind her back called Hikari no Hanana, the flower root of the light. She also had long copper hair and brown eyes. Momiji wore a red and white shrine maiden battle outfit with black ninja boots, and strapped to her back was a Naginata called Tenryu, Heavenly Dragon. Naruto sees the three and a grin was on his masked face. "Hey Tenchis," he called out. The three girls looked at him, and made Momiji and Kasumi had blushes on their face seeing him here, while Ain smiled. "So, my Wani-san and Momiji still have a thing for Naruto-kun? I wonder how they will react when he tells them that he can have more than one wife, due to the clan laws. I'm positive they won't mind since Naruto-kun treats us all like equals," she thought. "And hopefully if he'll find her of what he's looking for in." "Hey. So are you guys ready for the mission to Nami no Kuni?" Momiji asked for prepared, and they all nod. Naruto bites his thumb and performs a few seals and slams his palm into the ground. "Kuchiyoshi no Jutsu, summoning," he called, and in a puff of smoke, 2 horse-sized dragons appear. The first one was bronze-colored and had reddish-brown eyes. The second one was forest green-colored with yellow slitted eyes. "Hey Kaiser Senryu, can take us to Nami no Kuni?" he asked, and the 2 dragons nod and puffs of smoke escaped from their nose. "Of course, Naruto-san. Hop on," Kaiser said as he and his brother lowered their bodies. Naruto, Kasumi, and Ain hopped on Kaiser's back while Ryu, Suki, and Momiji hopped on Senryu's back. "Hold on tight," Senryu said when he spread his wings, as does his brother. Kasumi wrapped her arms around Naruto's waist and blushed when she pressed her body against his back, and Momiji wrapped her arms around Kasumi's. The dragons then shot up into the sky, and the squeals of Kasumi, Ain, Momiji, and Suki were heard as the dragons soared into the sky. While the dragons were soaring in the sky, Kasumi and Momiji were thinking about Naruto. He was cute, funny, and treated everyone equal, unlike some who come from powerful clans. Most boys his age were perverts to girls like them, but Naruto, on the other hand, wasn't. While he would tease them on certain occasions, he doesn't take it far. "How are you two doing back there?" Naruto asked as he looks over his shoulder behind at the Tenchi sisters. "Fine," they both replied at the same time. He then smiles at them and turns back around, not noticing the blush on Kasumi's face, but Ain did and smirks. Meanwhile, Ryu looks down to see an island with what looked like a bridge being fixed. Also, it's unfinished. "That must be Nami no Kuni, Wave Country. Naruto! We're above our objective!" he yells out. Naruto hears him and nods. "Alright Kaiser, I need you and your brother to land on that island," Naruto orders, and the dragon nods. Kaiser heads downward and his brother follows. As they pass the clouds, they see an island that's mostly forest. The dragons land in a clearing and the 2 teams jump off their backs. "Thanks you too, and give my regards to Oiba and boss." Naruto appreciated getting a nod from the dragons, and they disappear in a puff of smoke. They then pulled scrolls from the seals on their arms, and in a puff of smoke, several duffel bags appeared, and they contained their camping supplies. After setting up the camp and setting traps around the area, Naruto holds his arm out, and on it was a seal. He once again bites his thumb and presses down on it. The seal glows, and in a puff of smoke a container appears. He opens it, and inside were 6 radios with comm links connected to them. Alright guys, here are the radios and comlinks. He stated as he pulls one out and attaches it to the left side of his belt and places the comlink earpiece on his ear. His team and also Team Tenchi got theirs. Okay, this is what we'll do. Team Tenchi, you all are heading to the closest town you can find and scout the area, and see if you can get info on Gado's location. As Team Akuma, we'll be setting up traps and kill any missing nin, black spider nin, or bandits we find in the forest. Naruto said in an authority tone, getting nods from them as they got serious. We'll be scouting and looking for info for at least 3 hours, then we'll head back here and set up camp. Also Team Tenchi, if you can henge into civilians to gain info and steer clear of any shady characters. It's possible that they're Gado's spies, but if you see one alone, capture and interrogate him. Naruto stated and they nod. Alright, we have our objectives. Now move out. Naruto exclaimed and the 6 vanished from the scene. Kanehigakure. Hiruzen Sarutobi was not enjoying his day right now in this village. After the event in Tetsunokuni, Konoha's economy was not in the best of shape for the last 3 years, due to the fact that they had to give half of the village's worth of money to the Hayabusa village and Kushina's clan. Not to mention the 20 high-ranking missions and jutsus for retribution. The council was very upset about it, -1 as well, and plus a screeching purple-haired banshee furious for having their fortune low, and when the clan heads want to ask about it, Hiruzen told them to thank Danzo and his drones for their actions against the Ryukage. As the War Hawk wasn't seen at the meetings for a while, which Sarutobi was thankful for. And include the same blonde woman was secretly pleased and admitted about it of how her friend did. That she was disappointed at the so-called professor, and also as a friend of Minato besides her husband. She did honored her best friend's wish. Since then, the Konoha was now the shadow of its former self. Just as the orders received from Kushina requested to the fire daimyo had publicly executed most the few civilians that abused, despise and assault the true heir of the most powerful clan in the shinobi village, that interfered the foreign ninja clan affairs. And rest of the shinobis were devoted from Jonin or Chunin into Genin, or Eternal Genin, eternally. Leaving few remains for honor the late Yandame's wish. Also few of the AMBU had disregarded the 4th's wish. By sending all of them to Ibiki to interrogate after the suspended, or devoted, or execute. It was the arrogant villagers of Konoha to blame for they didn't realize the resemblance, not Naruto did the mess he made from them, for all the rest of shinobi forces is reduced, for disregard the late 4th Hokage's wish that cripples the village. They were extremely low on cash as the amount of money they had to hand over to Hayabusa was extremely large for a village. Without the Konoha's funds they earned to rebuild the village from the jobs and missions, they're liquidated and collapse, soon. It will take years to earn it after taking D ranks for capturing a certain cat will earn some money and more fresh out genins, and C rank missions for escorts and errands. But Konoha had less highest ranks for now, only 1B and Aura rank they received each a 2-week or 14 days from the fire daimyo for salary. So he gave Konoha a 15.5% from the salary. And even the matron from the orphanage is fired from her job and executed in public, replaced by a same certain blonde woman and husband that take over, and had her daughter to do the rest. Also they had newborn son/brother to raised. And I admired the rarest story of Narasaku, Land of Ice. A certain pink hair will had a brother. I'll had this story will had that she will had a sibling. After the foolish mistakes they made, the villagers were completely downfall for their ignorance and fallibility. After all the village won't be the same with peaceful. Without their Jinchuriki and their new allies to formed. The village of Konoha will be the easy target of other hidden villages like IWA. Their military power and village economic is weakened. Lastly each year, October 10th after the retribution, they tried to form a festival after the fire daimyo gave Konoha's half of the village's worth of currencies to the Hayabusa village and Yuzunami clan, and as well as the jutsu and mission scrolls the Ryukage wanted for retribution. Also turns out the fire daimyo decline and terminate the festival that held in Konoha that many travelers that came by were disregard. And shortened for Uzumaki and Namikaze's clan, inspired the idea by Path of Broken Fox by Killjoy the demonic phantom and Triforce Guardian. So it's completely low of funds for requirements. Now the so-called Kyubi festival is over, gone, forever, permanently. So they cannot enjoy themselves because they disregard the late Yandame Hokage's wish. It's because of that they shouldn't listened. But nothing can't go back to way it was. Now standing before him was Team 7 and 8 with the Jonin senseis being with Kakashi Hatake and Kurenai Yihi along with their students. After years past that they earned their currency with D or C rank mission, only 5 or less higher rank mission that have after Kushina had Konoha retributed. With Team 7, it was Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Sai. Lead by Kakashi. And Team 8, Tracker Team, it was Shino Abirame, Kiba Inuzuka, and Hinata Hyuga. Lead by Kurenai. They were currently standing before the leader who spoke up. Okay, since both Team 7 and Team 8 have completed the exact amount of missions, you'll be doing a joint C-ranked mission. he announced, and the Jonin sensei's eyes widened. Now don't worry, it's only an escorting mission. You'll be escorting Tazuna, the bridge builder of Nami no Kuni, he answered. Sasuke, however, was scowling because he won't be able to fight any strong ninja. Great. We have to spend our time with the King of Pricks. Kiba mumbles and gets bopped on the head by Kurenai. Back in the forests of Nami no Kuni, the sounds of screaming and metal clashing were heard. Naruto and Team Akuma had ambushed a bandit camp that was near the shorelines. The body of a dead bandit hit the ground with his eyes rolled into his sockets and had 2 shuriken embedded into his skull. Blood seeped out of his mouth and into the sand. Ryu had sidestepped from being stabbed in the torso by a bandit's spear. He sweep kicks the man off his feet and then grabbed the spear and stabs it into his heart, killing the bandit instantly. Naruto was cutting down bandits left and right. One tried to get him in his blind spot, but Naruto substituted himself with another bandit who was gutted with a broadsword. Naruto then vivisected the man in half and blood sprayed everywhere. Suki had one in a stranglehold and snapped his neck. She then shoves him away and stabs a charging bandit in the kidneys with her kodachi. After that she performs a few hand seals. Katon, carrier endin. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet, she exclaimed and shoots flames out of her mouth, and 5 bandits were engulfed in flames and watched as they screamed out in pain and agony. Naruto brought his right arm back with his index and ring finger out and yelled, Futon, Kaze no Yaiba. Wind release, wind blade. As he does a slashing motion with arm, an invisible blade of wind strikes down the last group of bandits, and they are cut down into piles of limbs. Naruto looks around at the sight and grunts. This is the 4th camp we hit. He muttered, and Ryu nods as he wipes the blood off his blade with a flick of his wrist. At least this one didn't have any women in cages. Suki castrated and slaughtered the poor fools. Ryu commented as he saw Suki swipe the blood off her kodachis. Okay, let's reduce this camp to ashes. I'm pretty sure they do route checks on the camps, Naruto said, and they nod. The 3 perform Katon Jutsu and incinerate everything. After that, he summoned Shinku, performed a water jutsu, and sprayed the ashes off the sand. They then leap away back in the forest, after the water dragon returned to the dragon summoning world. With Team Tenchi, Kasumi, Ain, and Momiji had found a town and were watching from the rooftops. The place was in simple terms a dump. The stores barely had any food, people were in rags sleeping in alleys and in cardboard boxes, and the children looked malnourished. Kasumi frowned at the sight she witnessed before her eyes. This is terrible. What kind of person would do this to a country? She asked. Only a scum like Gato. I see mostly of the children, but hardly any women or teenage girls. That bastard is probably selling them to brothels or as his personal slaves. What a sick fool. Ain answered, and Momiji clenches her fists. If we capture this man alive, I'm gonna cut off his beads with a heated kunai and then shove them in a place where the sun doesn't shine, Momiji states, and they nod on agreement. Ain then looks around and sees a man wearing a clean brown suit entering a building and narrows her eyes. I think I found our spy, she said, getting their attention. Where, Ain? Kasumi asked, and she points to a bar. He just entered that bar. He was wearing a brown suit that was clean. Now tell me, what kind of person wears a suit like that in a town full of poor people? It's possible he's a spy, she explained, and the 2 look at the bar he entered. So what should we do? Naruto said that if we see one, alone, we should capture him. Momiji says, and Ain had think about it. I could go in disguised as a Yakuza, Ain suggests, and Kasumi looks at her and nods. Okay, but let's wait until the sun sets, she replies. 3 hours later. As the man in the brown suit walked out of the bar, looking around, walking through the dirty streets until he hears a pissed. Hey, you in the suit, a masculine voice called out. The man turned around to see a man in a light purple suit with silver hair and black eyes. Who are you? He asked. My name's Mayuri Kasagi. I'm a Yakuza, Mayuri greet with proclaimed, and the man in the brown suit raised an eyebrow. And? He asked. I used to work for Kojira Sosuke, a crime boss for the group in Kaminari no Kuni, Mayuri answered, and they got the man's interest. Really? I heard he was killed by a group of ninja, he states, and he nods. Yes, he did, and I have a new boss that's interested in your boss's operation in this country, Mayuri said, and the man raised an eyebrow. Really? And how exactly did your boss come across this information? He asks, and Mayuri smirks. My boss had eyes and ears everywhere, he answered before asking. How about we discuss this in a more secluded place? What is your name, by the way? It's Hamada Toshi, Hamada answered. Well then, Hamada Toshi, follow me, Mayuri said, insisted, and they walk away and enter into an empty building. The door closes and Hamada raised and at Mayuri, who just stood in front of him smirking. Well? What is it you wanted to discuss? He asked. Kasumi appears behind him, and before the man could react, she covered his mouth and nose with a handkerchief that was coated with sedative. Hamada's eyes widen and struggles for a while, but then he blacks out and collapses. Well, that was easy, Mayuri said in a feminine voice and dispersed in a puff of smoke, revealing a smirking Ain. Momiji appears out of the shadows also while Kasumi starts to tie the guy's arms and legs with ninja wire. Good work, Ain, Kasumi said to her sister for her acted. Thanks. Have you two ran into any of Gato's henchmen? She asked. I took care of some of them, but there were no black spider nin, Momiji stated. Gato's probably using them as security guards, Kasumi answered. Ain pulls an ANBU mask on, as does Kasumi and Momiji. 30 minutes later. Hamada wakes up and sees himself that his arms and legs tied up. His eyes widen in fear. Oh shit, he says to himself, but then freaks out when 3 kunoichi wearing animal masks appear in front of him. Who are you? He asked, shaken. That's none of your concern, Kasumi replied before asking. You're gonna give us some info on your boss Gato or else? Or else what? Hamada asked, trying to act brave, but then Ain pulls out a kunai. Or else, we'll cut those beads of yours and then heal them with our medic jutsu and repeat the process, she said with a menacing voice and aims the sharp end at his crotch. Hamada pales and then speaks up. Okay, I'll talk. I swear I won't lie to you about the info I'm giving you, he replied, not wanting to go through that. For your sake, you better not lie to us, Momiji said and stabs her naginata in the ground, making the man whimper. With Team Akuma, Naruto, Suki, and Ryu were leaping through the trees until Naruto stopped, as did his teammates. What is it, Naruto? Ryu asked, wondering. Naruto motioned them to leap into the higher parts of the trees, and they did. When they landed on the tallest branch, Naruto spoke up. The Kage Bunshin I sent out earlier spotted some Konoha nin with the bridge builder, he answered, and their eyes widen. How many? Suki asked about them. 8 of them. 2 of them are Jonin, and then the other 6 are Genin. They must be the senseis of the Genin squads. One of them happens to be Sharingan Kakashi and Genjutsu Mistress Kurenai, Naruto answered, and their eyes widened even more. Until Naruto sighed, letting his teammates wondered. What's wrong? Suki wondered. Suki was curious about her brother's behavior. According to my clone's info, she's there. That made more wider from their eyes. You mean Ryu is about realized, getting a nod from the blonde. He and Suki knew he had his first friend. So, what should we do? Suki asked. I mean, you are going to see her if something happens to her? We'll stand clear of them for now. And the second, yes, I will see if she's there, Naruto says. Ryu places his hand on his comm link and speaks up. Naruto, Team Tenchi has captured one of Gato's spies and are getting intel on the man's security and location. Apparently the man is after the bridge builder and has sent some missing nin from Kiri to deal with him, he informed. Any idea who they are? Naruto asked. The Demon Brothers and Demon of the Mist's bosom Momochi, Ryu answered. Suki's eyes widen at the name of the Demon of the Mist. Damn. An A-class missing nin. This just complicates our mission. He's one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, she states, and Naruto nods. Okay, this is what we'll do. We'll keep an eye on the Konoha nin and the bridge builder. If they get into trouble, we'll assist them. Ryu, tell Ain that once they're done getting info off the man, wipe his memory and head back to the camp to rest, Naruto said, determined. Ryu nods and informs them to wipe the man's memories and head back to the camp and rest. After that, Team Akuma saw the group of Konoha nin walking through a path and saw a puddle which they passed by. So, they have an Inuzuka, an Aburame, and a Hyuga. They're probably a tracker squad. Then there's the other team. An Uchiha and 2 who are unknowns, Ryu comment. Before he noticed one of them felt a strong chakra signature conceal her. Something strange about this one? Suki scoffs when they passed by the puddle and wondered. Are you kidding me? Didn't they notice that genjutsu? For Kami's sakes, what do they teach the ninja in their village? Before she noticed one of them too. As for this girl, is she the one Nizan is talking about? Getting a nod from Ryu. That was when the Demon Brothers leaped out of the puddle and wrapped their chains around a shocked Kakashi and Kurenai. With a tug of their gauntlets, they ripped the Jonins apart and went after the Genin and bridge builder. Sai managed to stop their pursuit by stopping their chains with a tanto, and separated it from their gauntlets. Gizo charged at the bridge builder and Sakura was trembling as he swung his poison claw at her. Sasuke decided to show off and tried to strike the nin with a roundhouse kick, but the missing nin blocked the kick and swatted the boy aside like a fly. Sakura could trying to do to defend herself. She tried to fight back. Time to die, little girl, Gizo says as he continues to charge at her. Sai frowns and then appears in front of Sakura to block the claw with his tanto. Kami, you are useless, flat chest, Sai stated as he kicked the nin in the chest, making him skid back a couple of feet, letting herself ashame. Tsuga! Piercing Fong, Kiba cries out and Gizo's eyes widen when he sees a spinning cyclone heading for him. He sidesteps the attack only to cry out in pain when Hinata strikes him in the back with a Juken strike and collapses. Brother! Why you little Meizu growls out and gets ready to charge at her only to feel his body getting weak. Why do I feel so weak? He wondered but then looks at his arms and sees black beetles crawling all over him. Shino appears behind him and backhands the ninja in the temple, knocking him out. You shouldn't never take your eyes off your opponent, no matter how weak they appear, Shino states and tilts his sunglasses up. That was when Kakashi and Kurenai appeared. Excellent work, team. You managed to knock them out without our assistance. And you, Sasuke, you shouldn't have tried to show off, Kakashi states, as the Uchiha stood up shaking the cobwebs out of his head. Don't berate me, berate my useless teammate. He mumbles and Sakura flinches at being called useless. She mentally growled. Kakashi frowns at his response. She actually tried to defend the bridge builder, and if it wasn't for Sai, they'd both be dead. Until he'll face Tazuna with a nervous expression. Anyways, Tazuna, care to explain why these missing nin came after you? He asked in a voice that meant he was serious, and the man gulped. Back in the trees. Naruto, Suki, and Ryu saw the short battle. Naruto was frowned about that spoiled Uchiha scold his teammate. Ryu had a same boat about the Uchiha for being a show-off and Suki was disappointed. Well, at least one team seems competent. The Uchiha was pathetic. Showing off like that, what a joke. He's probably the runt of his family. Ryu commented and Suki agreed with a nod. Yes, that was very pathetic. No wonder the entire clan was killed. They were probably weak, and also she said. Naruto nodded and stated looking at one of the genins stated. Yes. And includes her, she had tried to fight back, but something felt strange within her. But she is keeping a secret from her team? I sense a surpass seal that prevents her without suspicious about her true self as well. Ryu nodded about Naruto's statement. Yup, she did keep secrets. But more importantly, looks like. The three dragon nin vanished. As the two squads were leaving, Kakashi was looking over at the tree. Kurenai seeing this and asked, What is it, Kakashi? We're being watched the whole time, he stated and her eyes widened. Do you think they were ninja working for Gato? She asked. I doubt it. If they wanted to attack, they would done it by now, and killed Tazuna, he replied. So what should we do? Kurenai asked. Nothing for now. They don't seem to be interested in us, so they're not a threat at the moment, Kakashi stated and she nods. So after that, they went to join up with their squads. The Leaf Ninjas were now riding a boat to cross the ocean to get to Wave Country. Until one of the team within her thoughts. I wonder how is he? It's been 8 years we haven't seen each other for some time, alright, now the glove is off, and sooner or later. I will not give up for myself, and then I will find him soon. When they got closer to the shore of Wave, they saw the biggest bridge that they had ever seen. Okay, this is as far as I am going to take you, I already risked more than I had to, now get off, the boat driver said with fear in his voice. The group got off the boat and began to walk on the road heading to the client's house. As they walked, the mist seemed to get denser and denser. Sasuke felt something and to try to act cool threw a shuriken into the bush, getting the group into alert. They slowly walked towards the bush to find a white snow rabbit. Wait a minute? Why is that rabbit's skin so white when it's spring? The skin of rabbits are always brown in the spring, not white, Sakura asked as they noticed the rabbit's snow-white skin and read about them in one of her books. The group looked at Sakura after looking at the rabbit and had the same thing going through their minds. When did Sakura was smart and stay sharp? Unlike she was a fangirl before her change of behavior. Kakashi thought, wondering. I will find out soon enough, or is it Mabuki-san is trying to say so he decide to play along? Or do his shinobi part? Sakura's right. That's because the enemy was keeping it in a cage to use it for body switching. Which means the enemy is already here. Everyone be on your guard. Kakashi added to Sakura's observation. Better look underneath on Sakura, after we dash. Suddenly they heard a whistling sound. Everyone get down! Kakashi yelled, as a giant sword came flying at them and almost took their heads off when they ducked. The sword was sent into a tree where a man stood on the hilt of it. Well, look at who we have here, the copycat ninja and the Ice Queen of Konoha. No wonder my men were defeated, the man said. Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the bloody mist. To think someone of your reputation is working for scum like Gato, Kakashi said as he got into his battle stance. Zabuza looks at him and shrugs, then said, Well, it pays and that's all that matters now. I will give you a chance. Give me the old man and I will let you all leave here alive. You know, we can't do that, Kurenai said. Very well. I guess you all will die here today. Zabuza says as he pulls his Zanbato out of the tree and lands in the middle of the lake and performs a few hand seals. Ninpo, Kirigakyu no Jutsu, Ninja Arts, Silent Mist Technique, Zabuza said, and then the whole field was engulfed in a very thick mist. The genin guard Tazuna while Kakashi reveals his Sharingan eye and Kurenai starts to perform some hand seals. What's going on? This mist is so thick, Sakura said. This isn't good at all. This technique is specialized for silent killing, which Zabuza was an expert of. You won't even know you're dead until you are. You guys better be careful, Kakashi explains, alerting them of a possible attack. The mist is getting thicker, Kiba said as he noticed it getting thicker. 8 choices, Zabuza started to say. Where is he? Sasuke asked. Did you know that there are 8 vital spots in the human body that if struck could spell instant death? Liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck, brain, kidneys, heart. Tell me, little genin, which one of these spots do you want me to strike in order to kill you? Zabuza asked using his voice projection jutsu and scaring the genin. Not far from their location was Team Akuma, who was watching the battle from the trees. This should be interesting. Former ANBU vs former ANBU. They both have experience in their fields, but Zabuza apparently has the advantage when it comes to stealth. Naruto comment, and Ryu looks at him. How so, Naruto? Ryu asked. Zabuza Momochi was a member of the assassination squad in Kiri's ANBU force. Naruto explained. He's a master of the silent kill jutsu. From what my mother told me, he's mastered it to the point to where all he needs to do is hear an irregular heartbeat or a twitch of your finger, and you're dead. To pull something like that off takes a lot of skill. Not to mention he has high levels of water jutsu in his arsenal. That caused Ryu's eye widen in amazement. That is incredible. He could probably give some of the Dragonin a run for their money. Too bad he's a Missinin. He'd make a good addition to our village, Ryu states. That was when they saw Zabuza kick Kakashi into the lake and the copy Nin gets trapped in a Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. Kurenai ended up getting struck in the shoulder by his blade and was kneeling down clutching her bleeding shoulder in pain. Well, that was easy. I expected more from you, Kakashi and Kurenai. I guess you're nothing more than tree huggers. Once I kill the Genjutsu mistress, you brats are next. He comments and creates a dozen water clone. Run! Get Kurenai and the bridge builder out of here! Kakashi yelled out, but the 6 were frozen in fear. 4 water clones appear on every side of her with Kubikiri Hocho raised and ready to cut her down. Sensei! Hinata cried out as she saw the blades come down at her in slow motion. Kurenai closes her eyes, waiting for her death. That was when a flash of silver was seen cutting down the clones, and they stood still for a while. They then dispersed into water, shocking Zabuza. What the hell? Who did that? He yells out. I did, Demon of the Mist, said a calm yet dark voice. That was when a 14-year-old male with wild blonde spiky hair wearing a deep blue and silver bodysuit with a face mask, arm guards and fingerless gloves appeared in front of Kurenai with Ryuken drawn. Zabuza narrows his eyes at the newcomer. And who the hell are you, brat? He demanded while releasing Ki on Naruto, who just shrugs it off. Me? I'm your executioner, Naruto proclaimed. As Naruto vanishes and appears beside a shocked Zabuza and a surprised Kakashi. Zabuza is suddenly hit in the side of the head by a roundhouse kick courtesy of Naruto, and is sent flying away from the blonde. This right here forces the man to free Kakashi from the water prison. Kakashi was drenched in water and gasping for air. Zabuza skids in the water and glares at the blonde teenager. I don't know who you are, brat. But you're in the way of my job. I suggest you leave before I add your death to my list. He threatens, but Naruto scoffs. You don't scare me, Demon of the Mist. I have fought and killed ninjas that would make you look like a child, and as for being a demon. Ha! Don't make me laugh. I have had encounters with the real thing, and you, my friend, aren't a demon. You are merely a human with the title of one. He said, determined, and Zabuza had a dark grin on his face. You have guts, kid. Too bad I have to spill them. Zabuza pulled his Zanbato out on his back. Naruto sheathes his blade and taps a seal on his gauntlet. It glows and in a puff of smoke. A blade that seemed to be the same size as Zabuza's Kubikiri Hocho, only this one was bronze-colored. The blade was wicked-looking, having razor-sharp carved edges on each side. The cross-guard was curved also, and it had a long hilt that is used for a two-handed grip, and on the end of it was a red gem on the pommel. Naruto grabs the hilt and twirls it in his hand. Everyone's eyes, minus one with amazed, bulge out of their heads when they see this. How the hell does he do that? That sword must weigh over 100 pounds. Kiba yells out. Hinata runs towards her injured sensei and pulls out a small med kit with Sakura accompanying her before look at Naruto that she noticed a dragon symbol on his back. That must be. Sensei. Are you alright? She asked, and Kurenai looks at her student and Sakura and nods, but winces agony. Here, let me patch that injury. she said as she pulls out some healing cream and bandages. Then she and Sakura did learn first aid. Zabuza had a look of shock on his face when he was a kid, no older than 14, hoist a blade that heavy without even struggling. Like it? It's called Dablaharo, and that kid was correct. This sword weighs over 100 pounds. But it is powerful enough to cut down trees and boulders like they were paper. In the hands of a master swordsman, however, it can create shockwaves that can cut half a city block. He explained. Zabuza looks at the blade and snorts. I'll admit. That's pretty impressive that you can lift a blade that heavy, but I doubt you can use it correctly. He commented. To be honest with you, Momochi, I don't really like using Zanbatus because they lack speed and leave me open for my enemy to attack, unless I'm fighting a large enemy. I prefer my blades over this weapon. He referred. Heh. Well, at least you admit that a blade of that size isn't suited for you, he said and hoists his blade over his shoulder. You misunderstood me. I said I didn't like using it. In my village, we are taught to use every single form of weapon from a Senban to a Zanbatu. That way our options aren't limited to a single weapon, Naruto states, and Zabuza lifts an eyebrow. And what village do you hail from, kid? He asked curiously. The only village that isn't a part of the elemental nations. The Hayabusa village, Naruto answered. Zabuza's eyes widened in surprise. The Hayabusa village? So you're a dragon nin? He asked, shocked about his shinobi is from the non-elemental village. Yes, I am, Naruto answered, as he then charges at the shocked man. Zabuza managed to get out of his shocked state long enough to block the attack. He lets out a grunt as the two Zanbatu grind against each other. Kakashi manages to get back on land and helps Kurenai up after Hinata and Sakura finishes treating her wound and the Rosette help her up before helping Kakashi. They then head back to the others and watched as Naruto engages with Zabuza in a sword fight. Ano Kurenai-sensei. What is a dragon nin? The Hyuga heiress asked, while Sakura watched the fight. Kurenai answered with explained. The dragon nin are the ninja who hailed from the Hayabusa village, the oldest non-elemental village that isn't a part of our country by one of them. It's a village from the west. The dragon nin are the shinobi of that village, and unlike each of the hidden village, that they don't have a ninja academy. That getting the shocking looks from everyone, minus Sakura while watching the fight with awed. For she overheard. No way. Their village doesn't have an academy? Then how do they become shinobi? Kiba asked that he sounded surprised. With Kakashi joined in and explained from Kiba's question. They are trained by their family members at a young age, and then they do simulations to see what they excel at and pair them up with other ninja. From what the boy said, they're trained in every single art of the ninja, even ones they don't major in. That is how they are able to succeed on missions. Dragon nin are known to be ruthless and show no mercy to their enemies. That made the genin had shocked looks on their faces. Minus one with slight nod understand about it. Sasuke was growling at the fact that someone on his age can be this strong. Because of his arrogance and selfish. He was so-called elite, he was always strong, not a foreign shinobi. Pray to Kami, you will never face a dragon nin on the opposite side because if you do, you're dead. Even the genin of that village are known to be deadly to even chunin level nin. Kakashi said since he has on occasion seen how dragon nin fight, and they are not to be trifled with. Back at the fight. Zabuza had to duck from an overhead slash from Debliaro. Naruto unleashes a kick towards his head and it makes contact with Zabuza's skull and sends him skidding back. He looks up at Naruto and charges at the blonde dragon. Their blades clash once again and they perform a series of slashes, stabs, and blocks. Zabuza performs a sword thrust at Naruto's chest. As the blonde leaps over the attack and lands on the other side. He then charges at Zabuza and attempts to stab him through the back, but the man blocks it with the flat end of his sword and is pushed back a little. Naruto then turns his blade upwards and pushed up using his strength. This forces Zabuza's guard to break and he is left open to an attack. Naruto performs a diagonal slash and vivisects Zabuza in half. Zabuza, however, dispersed into water. Impressive. He substituted himself with a water clone. I guess the swordsmen of the mist are competent after all, Naruto admitted. Zabuza rises from the water performing a series of hand seals and stops at the bird hand seal. Suetun, Suryuden no Jutsu. Water release, water dragon bullet. Zabuza cries out, and a dragon made of water rises slowly out of the water roaring. Naruto performs a series of one-hand seals and stops at the tiger seal. Suetun, Sujin Hiki. Water release, water formation wall, he muttered, and a large wall of water appears in front of him. The dragon collides with the wall of water, but it soon overpowers the wall and breaks through it. Zabuza had a look of glee in his face as he saw his technique overpowered by the dragon nin. Not so great after all, are you, brat? He asks as he sees no sign of the blonde boy. He was about to gloat more, but that was when a Naruto leaped out of the water behind the man. Zabuza's eyes widened in shock and he slowly turned around only to have 3 more Naruto appear on all 4 sides of the man performing hand seals. Katon, Karya Endin. Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet. Suetun, Suryuden. Raitun, Raryuden. Lightning release, lightning dragon bullet. Futon, Kazuryuden. Wind release, wind dragon bullet. All 4 Narutos unleashed each elemental dragon and set Dragon's head straight for a wide-eyed Zabuza. The 4 attacks collide and the combination of the elements causes an explosion that sends a large shockwave across the water and the land, causing everyone to cover their eyes. Damn it, Naruto and I. Did you have to put that much power into those attacks? Suki muttered herself with complaint a little. Zabuza is seen flying out of the explosion and onto land, crashing through a few trees and skids through the ground until he hits another 3. The demon of the mist was battered bruised, and had cuts and burns all over most of his body. That was when a volley of kunai strikes the man in several places, and he cries out in pain. Naruto appears in front of the injured man with Ryuken drawn. Damn, to think I'm being done in by a kid. He mumbles and Naruto raises his blade and prepares to bring it down on the man, until Zabuza's body jerks and he collapses onto the ground and remains motionless. His neck was struck by 2 Saban needles. Naruto jumps back and looks around with his sword ready and seeing 2 people wearing Hunter Nin outfit, and both have appeared to be male, or female each of them. It had raven black hair that was tied into a bun and the other is white hair, a wolf oni mask, gray vest, white shirt, gray pants, black fingerless gloves, and sandals standing in the tree branch. Hunter Nin. Naruto muttered. They shunshin and appear next to the dead form of Zabuza. Thank you for weakening him, Dragon Nin. We've been hunting him for some time, the raven hair said. Naruto narrows his eyes at the 2 and keeps a firm grip on his blade. Is that so? Then go on ahead, behead him and burn the body, he stated, and they tense up. Unless, of course, you 2 are not actual Hunter Nin, and you are playing the role of one to save him, Naruto states. That was when a barrage of white needles flew right for him, and he leaps to the side. The Hunter Nin with the white hair threw another barrage of white needles from its fingers and Naruto once again leaps back to avoid them. Let's get out of here, the other 2 are coming, he suggested, and the raven-haired girl nodded. They shunshin away with the body of Zabuza while Naruto sighs and sheathes his blade. Ryu and Suki appear beside Naruto and look around. They got away? Suki asked, and Naruto nods. Damn. Oh well, with the injuries you gave him, he shouldn't be active for a while. Getting a nod from Ryu. Naruto turns his head to see the Konoha Nin heading towards their direction, before seeing someone laying his eyes at her. Wonder what they want? Ryu asked, and Naruto shrugged. Don't know, don't care. They're not our problem. Let's head back to the camp, Naruto said before rolled his eyes side, be hit at the same girl. I'll see you soon. And they shunshin away, leaving Kakashi, Kurenai, and the others wondering what they were doing in Nami no Kuni. With a certain pink hair hold her hands on her chest. That blonde hair, isn't that maybe? Chapter ended. What if Naruto has a dragon bloodline council bashing? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.